Okay, I think I'm live. What's going on there? Right. Okay, there's one of you that's given a thumb up. Okay. I'm not sure what I've done here. Oh, there we go. Like I said, I think I'm live. I was changing the little, what do you call it, the thumbnail for the video. So let me know if it's working. What's all the hubbub? Oh, Scorpio, the Gamma King is here. Oh, I'm really touched. Well, I don't want to panic anybody because there's no good to come from that. Hello, Woolly Ram, and hello, Sam. The thing is, I've just come across this thing now. I don't know when it was, like sometime today though, that apparently two students, Sam says, everything bad starts in Europe. Just saying, can't say he's wrong. And it always starts in Germany. And this is where this has started, apparently. Two students which had arrived from Rwanda and apparently have been confirmed to have been in contact with somebody in Rwanda that was, they basically, supposedly these students have got the Marburg virus. Now, I've put in the, sorry, let me just sort out this cable a bit. I've put in the description of this video a link to a blog post I just put up now, which has got some link to the original story, some link to a previous blog post I did back in February of 2023. And even in the blog post in February of 2023, I was referring to stuff that was going on in 2021, which basically, not to put too fine a point on it, means oh, okay, Woolly Ram says there's rural internet, so let me know if you guys have missed much of what I've been saying. I'll start again if I have, if you have. There is a storm out here, so, you know, they're probably harping me right now as we speak not to get this out. But the point is that the Marburg virus is something that in the last 30 or 40 years, less than 400 people contracted and died of. It's got a very high mortality rate, almost 90%. It affects children disproportionately to adults. And it's a really horrific fucking thing that basically makes you hemorrhage from the eyes, nose, ear, mouth, and so on, vomit blood, etc. So it looks like a proper zombie apocalypse sort of thing. And like I said, these two students in the Hamburg Central Station in Germany were found to have contracted it from Rwanda. They had flown in from Rwanda, and they had been in touch with a guy that apparently has been confirmed as having had this Marburg virus. In Rwanda presently, according to the news, which, you know, take everything with a pinch of salt, but apparently 26 people have already died of the Marburg virus in Rwanda, and it does originate in Rwanda. It is a deadly virus, but as I said, in the last 30 or 40 years, only about, you know, less than 400 people died of this thing. But back in 2021, there were rumors and ideas and so on of like millions of vaccines of this Marburg virus having already been prepared and in preparation for a potential new pandemic. How they would know that it was coming, well, and that's why I put the link to the blog post below, so you can, you know, look into it yourselves and make of it what you will. Of course, you know, I don't know how much of this I can speak openly about or whatever, but in essence, if this virus is, the Marburg virus, it is pretty contagious because it spreads by transmission of fluids, but that can include, a cough, a sneeze, and so on. So it would be really quite something. And if it is like that, and if it's being potentially messed around with in some lab, weaponized, maybe escaped from a lab in Rwanda, who knows, right? Maybe a bat, from a cave in Rwanda, maybe a bat from a cave in Rwanda could have spread it, right? And if that's the case, okay, that looked like it hung there for a while, but what I was saying is, if it is the real Marburg virus, if it is contagious, if it's, perhaps mutated because of bats, bats are deadly carriers of disease, of course, if it's done that, yeah, I saw it locked, so continue with where I left off, hopefully. But if it is the real Marburg virus, and if it is really contagious and it spreads with a sneeze and so on, it's going to make the COVID pandemic and the lockdowns of the COVID pandemic look like a fucking happy, joyful, free game in the park. So, especially because it affects children disproportionately, which of course would create an even bigger panic, and day lockdowns or whatever to like contain that sort of thing would be absolutely literal zombie apocalypse levels. Again, I don't want to panic anybody. There's no point in that. Take whatever precautions you can take. If you take a second, like the video. Every little engagement signal helps. Small channels like this one. Yes, thank you, Sam. I really appreciate that. Yeah, please take a second to like the video, spread it, share it. Share the link to the blog. It is all helpful. And what I was saying is, if it is going to be the real thing, this thing could potentially spread so quickly that in a couple of weeks, the whole of Europe is being affected. And who knows what the vectors are, right? I mean, bats. I'm just going with bats, and I think you guys all know enough about bats and Batman and caves and secret caves with secret people that could potentially make this, the next step in the ongoing World War III that's been happening for a while now. So that's basically what I wanted to let everybody know about, first of all. So if you got questions on that or whatever, I don't know much more than what I've just told you. And like I said, if you want more information, if you go to the blog, there is a current post there now on this. And it also, in that post, has a link to the previous blog post I wrote in February of 23, which was actually referring to events that started to happen around 2021. So if it is the real thing, it's potentially been in the works for at least 3-4 years. And Jordan says a big chastisement is coming one way or another. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. E-Scorpio says bats are vile creatures. I agree with you, E-Scorpio, and I'd want to specify with you, is it bats? Are bats grifters, or are they gammas? Or are they gamma grifters or grifter gammas? I don't know. Which is worse? I'm curious. I'm curious. Especially because, bats might work in laboratories. I don't know. Batmans, all sorts of things. I'm actually really quite pleased that E-Scorpio is in the chat. I missed him. I missed my resident Gamma chief in charge. I don't know what the Gammas are up to. I haven't kept up with them at all. I hope all is going well in your filthy little corner of the internet. No, but yeah, I like E-Scorpio. He's, obviously he fights for the dark side, but, I like him. And he's always been relatively respectful to me, and I hope I've done the same. So yeah, whatever you guys wanna discuss or mention about this, please go ahead. Otherwise, I'll just continue with a random live stream. I have just finished a rough draft of uh, what I suppose is the second book on Systema, which deals with only advanced concepts of Systema. Um, I've only got a few videos to make for that because I want to, with the Systema stuff, I try and package it so that it's not just a book, but you actually have some videos that refer to with the book that you can go and look up. And I'm discussing, some advanced concepts in it, which I hadn't covered in the original Systema book, although the original Systema book is still the fundamental baseline. You should probably have both if you're in any way serious. Yeah, so that's a little announcement. Hopefully I'll have that book out not too distant future. DTW says, how did Germany stop it last time? Well, the Germans are prone to like building camps, gassing, dirty clothing, that sort of thing, and people possibly, who knows. But they locked down the whole station for several hours. They impounded the luggage of the students, and I believe they were in there with like hazmat suits, so they weren't fucking about. Whether it was theater or real, I don't know. I can't say. I don't have any more information than what I've just given you guys and what's on the news links that I've got at my blog. New Scorpio says, bats would be omegas, I wager. Filthy and unkempt. That's right, but are omegas like ever the hinge in any historical event? I just can't see that happening. Maybe it's a Sigma Omega bat that does all the trouble. Come on, Scorpio, since you're in here, have you got any like rants you wanna get into? I might just invite you on the chat on the interview if you want. Are the students Germans or paper Germans? I don't know. It seems like there were students, possibly medical students, from what I'm kind of trying to read between the lines, because they were, for whatever reason, in contact with somebody that turned out to be to have this disease, and there are doctors and whatever, lab technicians, bats, who knows, apparently investigating or have been investigating this stuff. In Rwanda, where there's been this outbreak, which up to 26 people apparently have already died. I think it's 26 that have died, or 26 infected, I forget. It's on the article I linked to anyway. But, all I'm saying is like, keep that in the back of your mind. Don't panic. Prepare accordingly if you feel that you need to. Get out of the cities, burn the earth around you. I'm just trying to give you as early warning as possible in case this is a real thing. It might turn out to be a nothing burger, which I hope so, but Oh, Sam is being really cool. He's being my marketing guru here, and he says, join the channel as a member. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you go in. We only need 6 more members to get to 10. And if we get to 10, I am going to start making regular members-only content where you guys decide what we talk about, or maybe one of you has some problem or whatever, we can all talk about. And Woolly Ram says, join us. Join a member level above me so that you can mute me. That's awesome negative marketing there. Thank you, Sam. I think I'm hiring Sam as my marketing director. If you can just pump my books and videos and whatever, that'd be great. Thanks. So, Scorpio, I'm I think obviously by now he's aware that I'm just becoming a full grifter. I'm asking people to join my channel for like a few bucks a month. So I'm now no doubt become a total nemesis of the whole Gamma Hive, I would guess. I don't know. Yep, Cooper Chauvin says we only need a few more for members only streams. We only need 6 more, if my count is right. Come on, Scorpio. I want Scorpio in there. so that you can report back to the Gamma Hive, what a filthy grifter I am. But yeah. So okay, that's the kind of news. Oh, some guy on the last video I did where I talked a bit about Andrew Wilson, the rather well-known debater of Eastern Orthodox origins, with whom I, generally agree with a lot of the stuff he argues about, but he made some fundamental errors, sort of slandered Catholicism a little bit, but he ran away. I sent him a super chat to sort of say, hey, do you want to debate me on sedevacantism versus orthodoxy? And he ran away like a coward with his tail between his legs. And I hope somebody clips this bit and sends it to him, because he's quite a feisty dude. I quite like him. So he's probably the kind of guy that'd be like, yeah, I don't give a shit if this guy's got a little channel, small channel. I'm going to fight him. Although one guy commented on my stream that he seems to remember that Andrew Wilson doesn't have authority from his priest to argue for orthodoxy or theology online, which I think is a cop-out, because we're two laymen. Neither one of us represents the church as such. We can definitely sling our opinions to each other. So if that is the case, I think that's just another cowardly cop-out. There you go, Andrew, calling you a coward right out in the open. So let's see if he picks up on that. Okay, let's just catch up with the chat quickly. Woolly Ram says, what's your instinctual assessment? I put my instinctual assessment on my blog and the post that is there, so on gphilopter.com. The link is directly in the description below this video. So you can go and read it there, just because, my personal takes are usually not necessarily TOS compliant, because I don't keep up with the TOS really very well, so I don't know what the latest is on that sort of thing. My instinctual assessment is that it has the potential to be something serious. Whether it is or not, whether it's contained, whether it's a little test run, whether it's an escape lab thing, who knows? I don't know. As always, my instinctual thing on pretty much day-to-day living is be prepared. Like the Boy Scouts. Or, just it's better to be prepared and not need your preparation than not be prepared and need your preparation. Scorpio says, from your lips to God's ears. And he goes, you heard old boy Vox Day did an AMA on Gamma Secret King subreddit. It did not surpass yours in engagement nor entertainment value. Yes, I was aware of that. I actually went to read it and I commented on it. I made a post on it on the blog. I kind of have to side with the Gammas here. I think if Vox and I went toe to toe, like somebody asked, I think I'd kick the shit out of him. I did made a blog post on that. So yeah, I know the Gammas are probably going to clip this one and just try and foment a round in the ring between Vox and I, which isn't going to happen. But there you go. I've given you some grist for the mill. Sam Wereb says, I bought 2 copies of Believe for my significant other. I'm guessing. Oh, for my sons last Christmas. Go and do likewise. Well, thank you, Sam. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's Believe is a very short little book, 98 pages of not very tiny type either, but probably because it's small, easily digestible, and has quite a lot of references so people can double check what I'm saying. It's resulted in a lot of people returning to proper Catholicism, being aware of sedevacantism, being aware of what the Novus Ordo fake church is and how it came about. There's definitely over 100 people, probably more than that by considerable number now, who have converted to proper Catholicism. So, it's been effective because it's converted. Well, I wouldn't say the book itself converted, but it made people aware of things to the point where they did choose to convert. And all glory to God and them. Uh, if anything, my little book was just a catalyst for that, because it talks about things that people don't know. And of course, the much bigger, more than 5 times as big, Proclaiming the Catholic Church gets into all the nitty gritty details of that. But in essence, a lot of people are currently realizing that there are spiritual elements to life, and they're joining one side or the other. Sitting on the fence is not really viable anymore. So if you kind of like, hey man, where's the truth kind of thing, that little book has been helpful to a lot of people. It might be useful for you, and it's like $10 or something. If you go to my to the link again below, there's 2 links, one to the blog and one to the the e-shop that I have, where I sell most of my books. There's a couple of the books that I have, like the Systema one and the Face on Mars one's only available on Amazon. And most of the other books are all available on Amazon except for Caveman Theory, which is not, because Amazon probably wouldn't publish it. But you may want to check it out. And I put a link in there because, of course, I've also got the role-playing game Surviving the Current Zombie Apocalypse, which it's a game. It's for fun, but it can be used as a little wargaming platform to test run ideas with your friends in a fun context, which, who knows, might come in useful, when the real zombie apocalypse hits. So, and by the way, eScorpio, thank you. I acknowledge the fact that I've got a few more stars on my Ask Me Anything that I did with the Gamma Secret Kings. Woolly Ram says, tricksy little bat getting away from their assigned laboratory. Indeed. Woolly Ram says, if you know anyone teetering between Eastern Orthodox, Proteism, Novus Ordo, believe can push them to the right direction. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Sam says, after you buy believe, I'm guessing, I don't know. I think he's a couple of typos in there. But anyway, thanks guys for promoting the stuff in the chat. But best thing is word of mouth. Share the blog posts that I do. There's a share button now at the bottom of every blog post. So if you like the blog post, ping it to your friends. Ping it on an email, ping it on Telegram. It takes you like literally a couple of seconds to do, and it is helpful for me. It would be great if I could just spend more time doing live streams and writing books. People do seem to like my stuff. They do seem to enjoy it, and I think there is a much bigger market out there. I'm just useless at promoting myself. And I think it would be an all-round positive thing for everybody. There's a lot of stuff I don't have the time to, put in a book format that is practical and useful, or at least very interesting and entertaining, like The Face on Mars and the Systema book and the 2 books on the Catholic Church have absolutely affected people's lives. I know that. I'm not just saying that because I get regular emails for all those 3 books still today. I wrote The Face on Mars, the first version of it. I wrote that in '95, and I still get regular emails. One of my very best friends and most loyal Catholic friend came to find me in London 25 years after I'd met him when I wrote The Face on Mars briefly at a book signing event. And we're now like really good friends, and he's one of the most loyal people I've ever met. So it affects people's lives materially in a way that is useful. And that was just from The Face on Mars, and since then the Catholic books and the martial art book and so on. There's going to be a second one coming out soon. They do help people. So, and I'm happy about that. I like that, but I like to write a lot more stuff, So, yeah, that is kind of, I'm hoping to be able to move into that side of things. So if you guys can help me do that, that's awesome. And Sam says, source, trust God, bro. I do. I generally trust God. This very good friend of mine that I'm talking about now, um, we're quite different people, really quite different. And, he always tells me, he says, look, your problem is you're a little bit too capable. I'm not capable at all. So I pray a lot and God helps me out. But like the problem with you guys that are really clever, and he's got another friend who's a good friend of his who's nominally Muslim, but not really practicing, and who apparently is also a very capable guy. And he says, you guys just don't have as deep a faith as I have because you can sort of sort out most of your shit on your own, and, and that makes you less likely to pray and rely on God. And that's not necessarily a good thing. I gotta say, he's got a very valid point. Yeah, he's so yeah. I accept that. I take your possible mild criticism there, Sam. I accept that it's valid. Okay, so that's sort of pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Now, if you guys have anything else that you want to ask or discuss or get onto, I'm open. Um, I have been toying with in my head so far only, the continuation of the Nazi Moon trilogy. Um, but again, there's just a little bit of house cleaning I'd like to do. I'd like to find the right person to do me the cover for the third book, because right now you can only get the third book if you buy the full trilogy, which is not ideal. Maybe you guys have bought the first two books and you don't want to have to buy a whole new book for that. But for example, this is the cover of the second book. The first book has got two alternative covers, which I don't have here with me. But I've got in my mind, I've got a very clear picture of what I wanted each cover to be. And the book one original cover has sort of got like a Nazi, it's very similar to the Nazi moon cover, except it's got like red sort of edges instead of just being in the, black of space. And it's got, and then the alternative version of it has actually got an image of Mars that has been produced by a guy who does 3D images of Mars using the altimeter data from NASA, and he let me use the image for nothing, just by giving him credit for it, and also the picture of the eyes of the woman that eventually became my wife, but we weren't even seeing each other at the time that I used her photograph, because her eyes sort of represented the closest thing I could find to the eyes of one of the protagonists of the story that I actually dreamt about, like in the each one of the three books of the Overlords of Mars series, or the Nazi Moon trilogy, is actually sparked from a dream that I had in the early 90s. So, but each dream sparked the idea for each one of the books, and they all fit together as a trilogy. They all work really sort of well. So I don't know, whether there's some kind of message there, or whether it's just coincidence or just my crazy brain like producing stuff. But it's interesting. Anyway, I've been pondering the continuation of that story, um, which was always going to be the case. It's a trilogy that was always going to have four books. So, but I really think that the fourth book is probably going to be another trilogy, because there's a lot of things I want to get in there. Oh, Woolly Ram says, any idea what is being laundered by all the current high-profile failures like Rings of Power, or are they just being eaten alive by their own evil and incompetence? Oh, probably a bit of both. Um, Certainly, evil and incompetence is, I never was of the opinion that you should ascribe to stupidity what you could ascribe to evil, and vice versa. I, truly believe in the power of and. Um, Stupidity and evil go hand in hand, as does incompetence. And sometimes one of them outweighs the others a little bit. Um, sometimes there is a very definite evil agenda that takes advantage of the incompetence and the stupidity in order to push their evil agenda further forward. Sometimes the stupidity overwhelms the evil plans and even the general incompetence, and sometimes the incompetence takes over. And sometimes they all work in a perfect synergy of the perfect storm of the most screwed up situation that you can imagine. Um, I think the last few years have given us multiple examples of all of the above. Hello, Caleb. So yeah, I was thinking, we had the test run role-playing game stream, which went very well, apart from Caleb, who couldn't join it for some reason. And I'm thinking of doing possibly another one, but maybe now that the basic concept has been presented, perhaps we could continue with the Dirty Old West one, or perhaps we could do a more meaningful game that maybe has, recurring episodes. And maybe we could make it like a limited mini series, maybe like 4 games that say once a week or once a month or whatever, whenever we can all get together with the same people. We could have a little mini campaign that presents the surviving the current zombie apocalypse scenario that I might want to present to you guys. And it could be, playing the little module that exists for the same game that I've created, or maybe creating a new one. And maybe if we do play another one, that could become another little module that we give to people, and your characters would be the characters in the module that happen, and so on. So I don't know, it's just an idea. Let me know if you're interested in that sort of thing. I think it might be fun to do. Somebody said, AJ Rhino actually sent me a link. I was kind of shocked by it. With, I don't know their names. Is it Dean something? The lady that was the coolest vampire in that HBO series of the vampires. I forget the name, but she's like the redhead, hot looking, kind of clever looking girl, but she's quite young when that thing came out. So she was the evil one of the vampires in there, but she just kind of like becomes a vampire by like oops. And the guy who plays the Punisher and who was in The Walking Dead and so on, John Blumenthal or something. And they basically talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and she's a fucking fanatic of Dungeons and Dragons, and I think unfortunately of the more advanced Dungeons and Dragons, just from the way they were talking. It's just like I could detect heresy. I could with my monk paladin dual class abilities, I could detect heresy. She probably plays Dungeons and Dragons 5.0 or something, not the original, like pure, proper role players do. But it was a very interesting little clip. It's only a few minutes long, but it was worth watching. It's quite cool that these guys that are both really quite famous people in their own right are talking about Dungeons and Dragons. It's awesome. Wooly Ram says, speaking of the power of prayer, it's surprising what happens when you pray for people that harm you or the generically malicious. Yeah, I think we probably pray for that in very different ways, Wooly. I definitely pray for those people, but kind of in the sense that I hope the judgment of God falls upon their heads right away and all the way through. Sam Wereb says, I like Gab, though I think that the enemy considers it to be a target-rich environment. I'll stay for a while, but what do you men think? After Torba sort of crippled it by essentially requesting that people pay money to be able to post pictures and memes and stuff, I think it was already relatively dead, and I think it's very dead now, and I haven't really gone into it at all for many months. I've written an expose or a couple of exposés on Andrew Torba on the blog, of course, so you can always just Google, search his name in the blog search me function, and you can figure out quite a bunch of stuff about Gab and Torba himself that, might be relevant. But yeah, it served its purpose, I suppose. I've got, my own little platform, so the people that are interested in the stuff I talk about can come here. I think Gab is, to a certain extent, very US centric and unfortunately riddled with US politics nonsense and absolutely, you know, infiltrated by feds of all kinds and so on. Um, Willie Ram says the modern owners of D&D are actively malicious, which is driving people to other systems and they OSR. I don't know what OSR means. But you can still pick up PDFs of the rules cyclopedia and whatever. You don't have to like fund these fucking, what do you call them? Destructors, infiltrators, corruptors, parasites that are destroying everything, with whatever wokeism and whatever nonsense they're trying to inject into the thing. Um, you can just pick up like copies or old versions or PDFs from drive-through RPG games or something like that. There's plenty of. You don't have to go to the newest, fanciest, latest role-playing game. You can get the rule cyclopedia for Dungeons and Dragons. It's got everything you need in it. It can definitely be found. Like you can still find physical books that you can buy on eBay or whatever. I had various copies of it. I gave one to my brother, and I don't know, he lost them or got them washed out in some fucking flood or something. But you can still pick them out. Naventelion says, "Can you describe self-hypnosis?" What, here on the stream? No, not really. That is one of the topics I would like to cover in a lot greater detail. Um, Maybe not even doing a book so much as a series of videos that could be subscriber only, could be a course on learning hypnosis, on knowing how to do it correctly. But if I did a course on hypnosis, I'd want to do it properly and I'd want to do a very good job, so it wouldn't be cheap. It would probably cost a bit of money. And it would include video, absolutely, as well as some written stuff, but it would have to include video, really. Sam Wereb says, "Willie, I will buy you a copy of the Catechism of St. Pope Pius X, also the real one." Get, that's very kind of Sam. Willie Ram, old school revival AD&D like games made by younger people and reprints of old books. Willie Ram says, "No worries, Sam, I have a copy of the Catechism." Excellent. I've got a very good copy of Catholic Catechism by Carlo Dragone. It's unfortunately only in Italian, but it's absolutely fascinating, stunning catechism. Every time I open that at any page, it's just like, oh, it blows my mind. I should read more of it, really, more regularly. So, yeah, let me know if there is any interest in doing. I know a couple of after that stream, I got emails and messages and people that, oh, I want to join. I'd like to do a game. So there are people interested, um, but subscribers get priority. That's only fair, I think. So, and I know that I also have a Substack where I was starting to write a police procedural set on the moon, which predates the Overlords of Mars series. That is eventually going to get done, but there's just been a lot of much more of things that unfortunately have to take a priority and more important, and that situation is probably not going to clear up anytime particularly soon. But yeah, I will definitely appreciate you guys becoming members and subscribers of this channel, because I plan to do live streams more regularly. And once we have at least 10 of you, there will be subscriber only live streams, which you guys will have a lot of say in terms of what we do in there. So, okay, I think I'm I'm actually all fired up because I had a decent coffee, so I'm not tired. There are about 14 to, I don't know, it keeps fluctuating. I don't know if it's the rural internet or people popping out and popping in, but there's some close to like 20 of you guys or so, 15, something like that, in on the live stream right now. So whatever you guys are interested in or want to discuss, remember, guns, women, Catholicism, and heretics are always available topics. They're evergreen topics. You can just ask questions on. Willie says the Catechism, St. Andrew's Missal, and my Diorami Bible are my treasured possessions. If I have to scoot, they're my top priority. Excellent. Sam says, fat finger, I can deny. Old eyes are another matter. Fighting matter. Well, these are just for aesthetic purposes, of course. Just to make me look intellectual. I, of course, wouldn't need that sort of thing because I'm in the prime of my health. Scorpio says, you've been very prolific at your blog the last few months. Took me some time to find the Kurgan versus Vox post. I respect your position there, and you're right. Gammas will not be raising a dime. Come on, Scorpio. I mean, just imagine this. This would crack me up. Oh, I've just come up with a scenario that in my own mind is hilarious. So listen to this, Scorpio. You tell me what you think. Scorpio promotes a live bout between Vox Day and myself in some ring somewhere in Switzerland or Italy or Nicaragua, for all I care, and raises a large sum of money. Let's say 10 grand. 10 grand for the Gammas would be like absolutely astronomical. They would lose their fucking mind that anybody's raising that sort of money for Vox and I. And let's say they do that. And then Vox and I show up in a ring and we sort of go, touch gloves and go, okay, we'll call that a draw and just walk off. I think Scorpio, that would either completely implode the Gamma Hive or it would like raise it to new heights. Like you'd probably get tens of thousands of subscribers. and then they would all accuse you of having sold out and monetizing it in cahoots with myself and Vox. I think that I think that would be oh man, that just cracks me up thinking about it. Willie Ram says, I feel you, Sam. I need multifocal glasses, barely 40 years old. Duh! You guys remind me of the joke, you children, you infants. The joke of the old dudes, the three old dudes, like all sitting around at the bar, three old Italians have a coffee together once a week, when they can get their old bones to the local cafe. And one guy says, well, boys, I've hit old age. I'm fucking 75 years old. And when I wake up in the morning to go for a piss, part the fact I gotta go like 3 times in the night, but go for a piss, and each time I have to wait 10 minutes for it to be able to come out, and just standing there waiting to take a piss is just fucking depressing. And the next guy goes, you're 75, you fucking toddler. What do you know about old age? You don't know a damn thing. I wake up 2 hours before I'm supposed to, and then I have to go and sit in the toilet for an hour just to so that I can take a piss because my prostate's the size of a fucking orange. I can't, And then if I have to shit, that's even worse. That takes me another hour and a half. I have to sit on the bog while I, get bowel movement to work, and sometimes it's diarrhea. And if I'm not careful, then it catches me by surprise. And the oldest guy goes, what the fuck do you kids know? I'm 96. You don't know anything about being old. I get up at 8 o'clock on the dot, piss like a mule and shit like a horse. The only problem that happens at 7. I'm kind of feeling it there. Sam Wereb says, Wooly, we could yell and wave our arms at each other and bitch about the weather and our aches and pains. Hey, I'm not quite there yet. But yeah. Yeah. I quite enjoy my chat. I enjoy having this conversation. I think Scorpio might have got offended. I don't know if he's still here. He hasn't made any response to my suggestion that we raise 10 grand for a fighting bout between Vox and I. That is really just a grift. Come on, Scorpio. Hey, we'll cut you in for 20%. Vox and I have got bigger families, so it's only fair. Well, let me take a sip of water here. Oh, another little bit of news, which I'm sure will turn out to be nothing. But somebody on the, I think it was on the last stream, made a comment saying, "Oh, you should talk to Stephen Molyneux." And I was like, dude, I can't be bothered. But I sent him back, "Yeah, you set it up. I'm there." The guy wrote back, "Oh, thank you. I've contacted his team. I hope they'll be in touch soon." I was like, cheers. I mean, I've got zero problem debating Stephen Molyneux. I mean, his philosophy is just fucking pointing all over. It's just, it won't even be a debate. It would be an intellectual spanking. But yeah, I hope he shows up for it. I'm gonna have to, like, I don't know, try and put him on speed talking, because he takes 45 minutes to get an idea out that takes 45 seconds for a normal person. But yeah. Willie Ram says, working out a few times a week helps a lot to avoid the pains and aches, as does eating fatty foods. Yep, certainly does. Scorpio says, my apologies. I am awaiting a response from my contacts in Mossad. We'll keep you in the loop. I have full faith in you, Scorpio, that we can run this grift together. I'm with you. Woolly Ram, oof, Stephen gave me the cringe even when I was ANCAP myself. Yeah, I have never been able to watch more than 2 minutes at a time of Stephen Molyneux, and I have literally, I think maybe I heard like maybe a 10 or 15-minute stream, the one where he goes on like, when he was kicked off YouTube or something, and he had to go on BitChute or Rumble or something, and he was like, I'm not bitter, guys, but no, I'm not bitter at all. And he literally crying. Like, people clip that shit for like weeks. And I have one of my most loyal Catholic henchmen who still has that clip. I think he has it on command, and whenever anything to do with bitterness or envy comes up, he just fires me that little clip on Telegram. It's hilarious. So yeah, I don't even know that much about the guy. I believe from second or third hand stories that he doesn't believe in family because, I don't know, maybe he was abused as a kid or some shit, or he had a bad childhood or something. And like, what's that thing? DEFO, like DEFO, which is an acronym for, I don't know, something like, emancipating yourself from your family because families cause harm or some shit. I don't know. It's some ridiculous, like, nonsense anyways. Willie Ram says, speaking of the Mossad, the stuff they pulled off in Lebanon sure indicates last year's attack was a green flag. Oh, absolutely. There was no doubt in my mind. I mean, just come on. It's like, you see, that's why I keep saying, don't ever assume that evil is not stupid. The people that run the so-called planet are not geniuses, trust me. I have worked for multi-billionaires. I've come across and in touch with a lot of different types of people. And for whatever, primarily because when you do security work, you come in contact with some very wealthy individuals. There is no doubt in my mind. I've stood like close enough to Harry, the ex-prince, who's now been probably ostracized from the royal family thanks to his grifting semi-prostitute of a wife. She was an actress, and I consider them the same. Um, it's these guys are not geniuses. They're not better than you or me in any shape, way, or form. And in fact, they're often morally corrupt to a degree that is very hard for the normal person to even begin to imagine, never mind like understand. So Wooly Ram says, yeah, he has mummy issues like all Anglos. That's an interesting observation. And yes, I would say an accurate observation. Um, it's very interesting. My wife and I have got enough small children, and we look and discuss these things regularly. Oh, thank you, Sam. He's sent me a super chat of $5. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And he, Stefan, Mellon, whatever, is gay. Good night, man. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you, Sam. Really appreciate your support. Cheers. And what was I saying now? What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the mummy issues of the Anglo people. Um, my wife is English, brought up in what I could say. What I could say, and not in a positive way, is the traditional, very sort of woke feminist zeitgeist of her country in the most spectacularly outrageous form. Um, while I was primarily raised in a more traditional mix of samurai and old Venetian honor before, death before dishonor kind of mentality. So, yeah, despite that, she's an extremely, she's smart. She's a very clever woman, and she's witty, intelligent, whatever. And she is, in her at her core, very female, very feminine person. And I am the opposite. So probably because of that, despite our ideologies being so far apart, it was fucking ridiculous. We still, there was always some kind of an attraction there. And thank God we didn't get together seriously when we first met, because we've both come to the conclusion that, yeah, it would have been great to, have an extra 10 years together, but we probably would have murdered each other at some point. So, and yeah. And Woolly Ram says, it's your observation. Yeah, I certainly have probably mentioned that before. But anyway, it's really interesting to see the shift in her understanding and approach to various things with our children. Um, I would say more prominently so with our son, but also with our girls. It's very, very interesting. And she's definitely starting to see the value and the validity of the, call it, Mediterranean version of doing things, which is really very different from the British or English version of doing things. Um, yeah, there are, pretty huge cultural differences between the English and the Venetians. I wouldn't consider myself an Italian, of course. Um, there are also some similarities. I'd say it's probably correct to say that there are more similarities between a Venetian and an Englishman than there are between either one of those and, say, a Chinese or a Korean. But that's not to say there aren't, pretty definite and clear and obvious cultural differences that are pretty deeply ingrained, between the various European nations and so on. Which is why America is somewhat a little bit of a mess, because it's a melange of all these different originally, mostly European people, and then of course it's had a huge influx of other cultures from, south of the border and other places, Africa and so on. So the overall melting pot, if you like, of American culture, in inverted commas, is, what comes out of that thing that you people think I'm just slapping the air is what I think the Americans call no-see-em, because you don't see them. No-see-em, or, like no-see them, you don't see them. They're vicious little bastards. They're far worse than mosquitoes, and I'm surprised they're still alive, because it's kind of getting cold now, and the stink bugs are coming back. But these guys still haven't disappeared, which is unfortunate. Eventilion says, America's somewhat of a mess, only somewhat. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, dude. The last time I sort of spoke my mind about various nations, that video's off. It's on BitChute, though, number 114. Caleb says he'd be up for another game. Okay, cool, but I was thinking of doing it on the Surviving the Current Zombie Apocalypse role-playing game, which, it's a little bit more expensive to get if you want to get the physical booklet, it's, I think it's $28, because it's full color. I should probably go and pick one up just so I can show you guys. It's a full color interior as well. Or you can pick up the PDF at my e-store for a lot less. I don't remember how much. And you can just print it out yourself and staple it together. Either one is good, it's basically just so you can get the rules. And it works on very similar principles to the game we did on the Dirty Old West. That's on the last live stream I did. Well, no, the one before that. But it's got a bit more, it's more fleshed out. It's got a little bit. It's got more skills, more talents, more stuff like that. Wooly says, I've read some Chinese and Japanese modern fiction. It's amazing how spiritually numb they are. Yeah, I've got to say that the only fiction, and probably I would limit myself to science fiction, that I have found very interesting and quite entertaining is the Russian one. Russian writers that wrote science fiction, like the Strugatsky brothers, I think they're Russian, or at least East Bloc. The Solaris was a Polish guy, which is the exception to the rule about the Polish people. I'll say no more, TOS and all that. But is it Lou Stanislaw that wrote Solaris, I think? But they have a different take on certain things, and there's a slight sense of the absurdist surrealism realm that I find fascinating, and in some way reflects real life a lot better than actual people who are trying to write realistic books, of which Philip K. Dick was, of course, the master in the English language anyway. So yeah, and I've recently made a blog post about Twin Peaks, the TV series, which also has Woolly Ram says Roadside Picnic. Yeah, very good. That's a very good book. The Twin Peaks TV series, which I'm sort of slowly working my way through is really quite brilliant. And unfortunately, my first encounter with David Lynch work was a film called Blue Velvet, which I saw when I was a teenager. Made no sense, or it was just so weirdly random that I couldn't really be bothered with anything he did after that. It just like rubbed me the wrong way, and I was like, nah, I don't want anything to do with this guy. But out of I don't know what really random sort of curiosity, I started to watch the series, which is on Prime, like Twin Peaks, and it's got 2 seasons. Like the first season is 8 episodes, and the second season, which I'm roughly halfway through, is I think 20 episodes. And I don't know if it'll end. I'm sort of like, I'm kind of like hesitant to get to the end of it because I think David Lynch being David Lynch, he'll probably leave it like weirdly open ended with a whole bunch of shit not solved. But I'm really enjoying it. It's very theatrical, yet at the same time it can be hilarious and sometimes gritty, and sometimes there's elements of horror in it which are quite well done. So it's really quite interesting. Sam Wettup says, "May God find you in His mercy, bless you, and help you. This best and most sincere thing I've heard here." Yeah, thank you, Sam. Yeah, and I agree. Willie Ram says, "Amen. Come back soon and often, Kurgan." That's the idea. But in order for me to come back soon and often, I need to be able to, unfortunately, the filthy thing called money is something I still need. Um, I don't pretend to be a completely off-grid guy who drives a Porsche like some people we know. Um, but that ultimately that's the aim. But I don't know how possible it is, and I'm certainly nowhere near there. I still have electricity bills, water bills, just general bills of like trying to feed all my children and so on. So yeah, I'd appreciate your support. If you like my stuff, buy my books, support the channel, etc. Caleb says Molyneux still relevant. Well, I never thought he was relevant at all, ever, in any way, shape, or form. But some people apparently still think so. Just think he was or is. So yeah, I don't know. But I mean, if you guys know me, if you read my blog, and if you've seen the kurganings that I do on random morons, you know that I'm not only happy to beat a dead horse. I'm quite inspired to beat the ghostly protoplasmic atoms of the ghost of a dead horse. So yeah, you know, I don't mind if the guy is super famous. Great, maybe increase my audience. And if he's a nobody, I don't care as long as it's entertaining or worthwhile. I'll do it. I've been meaning to get in touch again with that young dude Peter, who was a very respectful, very nice young man of the Novus Ordo Catholic variety, and see if in the intervening years since we did that one interview, whether he's changed his position at all in any respect. It'd be interesting to see. I should probably ping him an email sometime, see if he's up to it. But most of the people that I'd be happy to have an interview or a conversation with, they have run away screaming. Um, Milo the Freemason, of course, has had an expose, several exposés done on the blog. He's absolutely refused to engage in any way, shape, or form, as the emails that I've published on the blog make clear. Yeah, I don't think there's anybody really that is of any kind of relevance that I would, say like, yeah, okay, this could be at least fun. It's hardly ever useful, but it could be at least fun. Um, I don't think any of those guys wanna debate me on pretty much anything. And then there's people that I wouldn't waste my time anymore to do anything with, like Jay Dyer is one of them. Jay Dyer is very tiring because very, 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 very deceitful, sophistic, quote mining, lying guy. And while it's not difficult to expose his absolute pathological level of lies, it's time consuming and it's tedious. And I've done it, I've done it in writing, I've done it in video format. Um, so I've done it in the blog, on the blog, I've done it on this channel. I'm like kind of, it's done. If you want to find out what Jay Dyer is about, go see the 3-hour video I did, which I dissected the whole internet debate that was mysteriously taken offline after people started to like go and read at the written after report of it and realize, oh, actually, the Kurgan kicked the shit out of it. So yeah. Sam Webb says, we few are working on your extra bills. Molyneux is still gay. Okay. I don't know what the sexual proclivities of Stefan Molyneux is, and quite frankly, I don't care. I'm quite happy to. Sorry, I don't know why these pajama bottoms like. Oh, because I didn't tie them up. That's kind of falling. Yeah, no, thank you, Sam. I really appreciate the fact that you're trying to spread the thing. But the best thing you guys can do is word of mouth and sharing the blog posts, because I am absolutely definitely shadow banned in various ways here on YouTube. On the blog, I've been getting them like certainly once a month and probably sometimes several times a week. There's emails from Gmail saying, oh, we can't index your sites and we can't index your pages because of this, that, the other. And I've sent it all to my IT guy, and he's like, what the fuck? There's nothing wrong with your site. They should be indexing your pages and your blog. They're just coming up with bullshit because we have followed all the supposed rules that we're supposed to for the search engine optimization and whatever. So the only way you can really sort of find my blog, and that is by people directly going to it and then bookmarking it and going there daily. There's usually multiple posts every day now. Sometimes I'll skip a day, or maybe I'll only do 1 or 2 posts or whatever, but there's days where I've done like 5, 6 posts in one day. So, and they're generally, there's stuff that interests me or that is relevant or whatever, but I don't, I think people enjoy reading it. It's, like there's a few blogs I go to quite regularly, quite maybe not daily, but certainly I keep up with. One is Vox's blog because he posts interesting stuff. Another one is Rob Unz's blog, also because those guys post regularly every day. There's something new. I also keep up with Adam Piggott's blog, Pushing Rubber Downhill. Not as frequently because he doesn't post as frequently. So I, every once a month or whatever, I'll go and check up. Hey, what else you got? Yes, thank you, all told. Peter's channel is Vendy Radio. Yes, I did an interview with him a few years ago, a couple of years ago, I think. I should ping him an email and see if he wants to come on again, see if any of his ideas have matured, grown, changed, or anything like that. I'd be quite interested to know about that. There is, of course, another debate going on in the sedevacantist communities between sedevacantists and sedeprivationists, and but we're sort of keeping it low tier boil, because the fact that we have theological differences in Catholicism has always been the case. There's no, just because we're all Catholics doesn't mean that we all have exactly the same position on things. But the main problem is we want to try and avoid theological error. And the sedeprivationists are now starting to stray into actual theological error. And at first it was just a form of relatively mild error relating to, but now it's starting to affect the education of various priests and internet again. It's definitely starting to stray into the more serious aspects of canon law. And so, internally at least, we've been discussing this for a while. I mean, I've always made it very, very, very clear that the only use of the word sedeprivationist that I had is that etymologically it's slightly more correct to say that the chair of Peter is occupied by an impostor than to say that the chair of Peter is empty. And, said deprivationism is implying that the chair is being prevented from being filled by a legal pope because there's an impostor sitting on it. So, from a purely etymological point of view, it's a better word, but the sedevacantist thesis is untenable and has been untenable for quite a long time. It was a potentially valid thesis when it was, at the time that it was hypothesized, because it was sort of like giving a little bit of an out to what potentially could have been, honest bishops and priests that sort of went along with Vatican II stuff, because the Vatican II stuff did take some time to all come out. It was between, but I think the last one was towards the end of 1964, and Roncalli had started it in 1958. Although the first documents were published shortly after his death, he had approved the first two of them already. So, you could say it took a period of 5, 6, 7 years for the whole of Vatican II to complete. And in that time, priests and bishops being prudent and not wanting to rush to judgment, you could have kind of excused some of the stuff, sort of like, oh, well, let's just wait until all this ends and let's see if it really is such a ball of heretical nonsense or what. So at the time that it was, good night, Sam, thank you very much. At the time that it was hypothesized, it could have been a potentially tenable hypothesis that could have led a bunch of genuine priests and bishops to come back to the correct path. But, with the beauty of some 60 years of hindsight, it's simply not tenable. It's not logically tenable. It's not theologically tenable. It's not canonically tenable. There is simply, it is not a valid theory. It is a somewhat milder form of recognize and resist. So completely untenable and not founded on any Catholic grounds, on any Catholic dogma. It's just made up out of a wish to sort of say, oh, well, there's still potentially a chance that all the satanic heretic Freemasons that are in the Vatican would just spontaneously suddenly become good Catholics, which is actually counter to Catholic dogma. A heretic, even if he truly does convert, cannot ever, ever, ever have authority over anybody as a Catholic clergyman. So it's actually counter to theological divine law. So, that's that. And Sam says, join the channel as a monthly member like me. You can shout me down with authority and a channel badge. There you go. Wooly Ram says, looks like Peter interviewed another Sede guy, Louis Verracchio. I don't know who Louis is, but I have recently on the blog posted, oh, sorry, my chair barely fits under my desk. So I've posted a very good video on, this Sede privationism problem by somebody who I was sent his name and actually his contact details. Just haven't had a chance and time to get in touch. But yeah, maybe we should do a regular sedevacantist stream to counter all the nonsense and paid ticket takers of the Novus Ordo. That chubby dude, what's his name? Michael Lofton, something like that. I saw a piece of a podcast recently of guys that were originally doing the podcast with him, and I was just like, no, dude, what are you saying? You're now saying that Bergoglio is a cool, is the real valid pope. That's nonsense. And these are not even sedevacantists. These are just guys that are, potentially, I suppose they're 2023 sedevacantists who think Ratzinger, or Ratzi the Nazi, as I call him, was the valid pope, which is of course nonsensical. Oh, Louis Verracchio has a blog called AKA Catholic. Yes, I'm familiar with the blog. I wasn't sure if it was fully sedevacantist or not. It's good to know. Yeah, I may have to get in touch with these guys, and maybe we can do a little regular stream on that, just generally educate people and you know give the enemy a chance to show and throw their slings and arrows at our impenetrable fortress of truth. There you go. That includes you, Andrew Wilson. Yeah. So yeah, oh, well. So what have we covered? Oh, we've covered quite a few things. The Marburg zombie apocalypse, role-playing games, the impending release of the new Systema, advanced Systema stuff that I'm going to be publishing soon. And by the way, it has, like I said, advanced concepts, so doesn't need to explain a lot of things as in much detail as I did in the other book, because if you're an already advanced practitioner or you're interested in the advanced stuff, you probably either read the first book or at least should be familiar with the concepts in it. So, oh, Willie Ram says, from browsing Peter's channel, it looks like he has been doing a deep dive connecting Masonry, Jews, usury, and the like. Well, seek and ye shall find. If he keeps looking into the history of Catholicism and so on, and the history of the Novus Ordo Church, it's pretty much inevitable that an honest person will automatically eventually become a sedevacantist. Just like any Protestants that starts to investigate honestly the history of the church, inevitably, if he's honest with himself and in general, cannot help but become Catholic ultimately. My prime example is the guy who wrote The Four Witnesses, Rod Bennett. Very good book, very well done. He used to be Protestant, and just as a matter of researching the early history of the church, he's realized, shit, I'd never like to stand on what Protestantism is nonsense. So he became a Catholic. Sylvester says, hope all is well, Wooly over there. Yeah, so obviously so do I. Wooly lives in Israel. But from what I can gather, you're probably not about to be reduced to glass right now. I hope so, anyways. And yeah, I hope you can. Just, oh, pardon me. I hope you can just get the hell out of there, dude. It's no good place to live. Yeah. All right. I'm feeling a little bit. Just thinking if I should make another coffee or I should go for a tea, perhaps. What do you guys say? Are you okay for me to quickly go make myself another quick drink while you fire into the chat any topic you want to discuss, any questions you might have, uh, including dumb questions. It's a free for all. Give me 3-4 minutes and I'll be right back. All right. So the coffee is on the boil. Okay, a stream with Louis V would be legendary. Okay, I'll ping him an email maybe if I need a secretary. I need somebody who handles my my PR side of stuff. Any volunteers? And you know what? I'll even take you if you're a guy and you're not a hot looking girl to be my secretary. It's fine. It'll be, remote. It's cool. Holy Ram says more of an observation, noticing the prevalence of occult symbols while knowing that most of them just mean I'm part of the in group while being worn by a normal dude or girl is a bit surreal. Yeah. It's very much, tell me what you think, Wooly, but it's very much a greeny Houdini. Oh, that's a lady from far, far away and long, long ago. Welcome. Yeah, what you just mentioned there, Willie, about noticing the occult symbolism in just random people that don't really maybe know what they're doing. It's a very similar feeling to when you first realize that the fingerprint of the eternal psychopath is prevalent just about everywhere you look. When I first had my so-called road to Damascus moment, they one of the overwhelming things that I felt was that I couldn't even watch like 5 seconds of an advert because it was patently obvious what a complete corruption and degeneracy of the truth. Pretty much everything all around us all the time is. It's quite shocking. Greenie, come on, you on as a welcome back. You should absolutely throw in something that we should discuss now on the topic of the day. I'm just gonna go grab my coffee because I can hear it's ready. All right, here's my coffee, and I've left the other half in the pot for tomorrow morning, or rather later today in my case. Okay, let's see. Sylvester's got something there. Let's see. Sylvester, I need to go to bed badly, so good night. Topic of a question on: do you think it's inhuman to be busy? These days in cities, you need to work many hours and have a full schedule to survive. Yeah, it is. It is demonic. It's absolutely satanic, and that's the intent. They keep you busy on stupid work so that you don't concentrate on what's really important, like your family, your kids, raising your family. Caleb says, I remember, Miss Greenie. Welcome back. Greenie says, a topic of the day, LOL. What a day it's been. I just purchased some land amid trying to figure out what cash crops I should invest growing as well as becoming self-sustainable. I love Greenie Houdini. I always imagine her to be a very hot-looking woman who likes guns and can actually reason. So, very interesting lady. yeah, I hope it really goes well. Well, if we can ask, if it's, I think Greenie probably doesn't want to show her face, so I won't do this. But if you want to come on a chat as an interview subject, definitely happy to do it. And you don't have to show your face. You could always just do audio or whatever. If you're willing to do it, because we're curious. We're curious guys. We want to know, like, where did you buy the land? How much was it? What are you planning to do there, and so on. I'm just going to warn you that being a farmer is very difficult, very hard, very labor intensive. I don't know if you know, but I finally managed to get a tractor, and I'm completely super broke as a result of that too. But the tractor helps a lot. It makes a big difference, but it's still a lot of work because my land was pretty much abandoned for about 3-4 years. So, and I wasn't able to like do anything very important to it right away because I didn't have a tractor. I do now, and I've got a friend that's pretty much cleared most of my field himself, who knows how to use the tractor. I fuck something up every time I get on it, pretty much. I'm getting better at it, but what took him 2 days to do would take me probably 5 weeks. So, if I could pay the guy, I would pay him, but he's doing it just out of friendship. I give him some. We've had a lot of mushrooms like recently, so I give him about 3 kilos of mushrooms the other day, and he's gonna get oil and stuff. But have you managed to stop breaking the tractor? So far, touch wood. But like I tell the guy, there's this joint that basically goes from the tractor to the trimmer thing that cuts stuff, and I've broken that 3 times because tractors are tough, but they're also kind of delicate. You have to operate them correctly, otherwise you will fuck something up. And so with this trincha, I don't know what the name of it is in English. It like cuts everything. It like chunks out even little bits of trees and stuff. But there's a couple of things. You can't engage it when it's like lifted. You've got to stop engaging it whenever you like turn the tractor in any direction. So, of course, the first time I was just driving around with it, like, hey, I've got it, it's switched on, I can lift it, do whatever, and bang, passed it. Second time, I didn't realize that you had to switch it off every time you lifted and lowered it, so I passed it. Third time, it got caught in like a bunch of brambles, and I was like, what the hell, dude? Let me just. And I thought, oh, well, I can start it up without the tractor having to move if I just put the tractor in neutral and engage the thing. And yeah, it does. But of course, when you do that, it immediately goes like 1,000 revolutions a minute, and bang, I broke it. So each time is a new thing. And when I took it to the guys that fix it the last time, it's like $70 each time, which is, it's not a huge amount of money, but every penny counts these days. So I'm pissed off with myself, and I told the guy, well, here I am again. You know why I'm here, don't you? They just laughed, and I go, but, just be clear. I broke this one in a new way, hey? The guy just burst out laughing. And I go like, I know, there's probably like 4,000 ways to do it, but I'm going to go through every one of them, you can be sure. So, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Greenie says, that would be awesome. I was in your Telegram, but got a new phone number and can't get my old tele, so I have to make a new one. And yeah, we can plan a show together. That'd be great. Cool. So, Greenie, drop me an email. If you go to the blog, I'm sure you know how to get on there. So you were on the Telegram channel. Okay, or just find the Telegram channel if you... Drop me an email. I'm easy enough to find. Go to the blog. You've got a contact like information there and stuff. Drop me an email and let's do this. That'd be awesome. I'd love to do that. That'd be great. And Sylvester says, I'm truly offended. My weak modern work ethic, soft hand approach to the olive trees was not considered a major change to the state of the farm. No, it was. I've got to admit, you and Tony did a sterling job. You really did. You worked like good old slaves, peasant farmers from the old days. You did a sterling job. Unfortunately, I need it again. So you could just come over, with my hypnosis. I'm just, I've said the magic word now, Sylvester. You have to come back to Italy and work for free. Greeny says, Kurgan, you've always flattered me and I try to not let it go to my head. Face blue smiling. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. It's absolutely fine. As you know, one good thing about me is I don't give out free compliments, which is a good thing because when I give a compliment to my wife, unfortunately neither of us is very good at receiving compliments, and she's like, oh, well, kind of like what, I don't bullshit people. I don't tell you like, you look good or whatever. I generally don't give out a compliment unless it's absolutely deserved and genuine. I really do. And I remember from our interactions in the chat that Greenie has always been a very very intelligent lady. I always appreciated her interactions. I'll say it once more because there's a few more of you now. Just remember that you can become a member on the channel. It's a few bucks a month or whatever. And like I said, I'm trying to like expand my ability to have more time to write and stream regularly and so on. So if we get another 6 members in the subscriptions on the channel, I'm going to start doing members only live streams. Just because it's here, I also wanted to tell you this was done for me as a gift by one of my loyal henchmen that actually works in Vox's library thing where they build these like leather-bound books. And this is a one-off. He just did it just for me. So it's really excellent quality. I was really super impressed with it. So those of you that buy Vox's stuff, I know, will know this. Yeah, they're kind of expensive, I suppose, but good quality stuff. And well, if you want to see all the latest books I've got, just go on the blog and ping in on books I wrote, and there's a link there to the e-store, which is where most of them are. Oh, I made that well. It's really interesting. Like, my wife makes the best tea, and when I try to make tea, I made it. Sometimes the kids want tea, and I make it for them. And like the last time I did it, I think I'm trying to remember her exact words. I don't know. It wasn't complimentary. It was something like, what the hell is that undrinkable shit that you fed to our children? It was something along those lines. To which I was like, it was, maybe I rushed it a bit. She's like, fucking disgusting. How can you feed that to your own children? You pervert, you sicko. Like, but apparently I'm the only one that can make the coffee sheet the way she likes. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Sylvester says, haha, honestly, man, I've been mulling over sending you a message. I need some time away from the internet work. So be careful what you wish for. Just been stuck for various reasons. Dude, that means that my Manchurian candidate things, you should have immediately just said, yes, sir, I'll be there right away. I must reinforce the suggestion that I've obviously done on you with the, over the internet with the hypnosis. Dude, you're welcome anytime. Honestly, you're welcome anytime. I could certainly use the help, and I always enjoy your company. So, Woolly Ram says, can recommend Nazi Moon for alt hidden history sci-fi fans. Yes, that was also very kind of you guys to mention that. I can't remember if it was, I think it was Caleb that said like, he actually sent me private messages as well, telling me like, dude, fuck, I've just finished the Nazi Moon. I'm really impressed. I didn't think I'd be that like hooked into it. I couldn't put it down, sort of thing. And I think Wooly or Caleb, I can't remember, in the chat like a couple of days ago, made the same comment. Says, why the hell doesn't anybody write science fiction like that anymore? It's like, it was like reading the good science fiction from the old days again. that's the kind of science fiction I like reading, so that's why I write it, because I can't find any either. So I think the last decent book that I enjoyed was I can't remember the title for the love of God, but the main protagonist was called Tan, which was short for Tancredi, and Tancredi was the name of my maternal grandfather, who also had the name of one of the main crusaders of the Crusades. So it was interesting because the old sci-fi writers used to be very literate people. Um, of course, one of the best sci-fi books I've read was Ilium. The follow-up Olympus was not as great, by Dan Simmons, and the Hyperion series by Dan Simmons is very good. I've pretty much read everything that Dan Simmons has put out. His latest work, I wasn't as impressed with it, but yeah, definitely his older work was brilliant. And Greeny Houdini says, so do you think the Iraqi war was over them finding the tomb of Gilgamesh? Oh, Greeny, you got to be careful of my wife, because with this kind of topics coming up, she might get jealous of our intellectual rapport. So Joseph Farrell talks about something else very interesting, which are I think they're called the 7 Emerald Tablets, which were potentially instruction manuals or functioning parts of what he calls the Giza Death Star, which is the Giza Plateau pyramids, in his opinion, and I think he's right, where are essentially psychotronic scalar weapons that you could use to attack other planets, other regions on the planet, other people, spaceships, whatever. And it sounds absolutely nonsensical just when I summarize it like this, but the physics behind it absolutely makes sense to me. The work of, I think his name is Chris, I don't want to lie, Chris O'Donnell, something like that. He's an engineer anyway, who also studied the pyramid and pointed out some engineering aspects of it that are, the Great Pyramid of Giza was not built by Egyptians using copper saws. It's just nonsense, and it was built much earlier than has been said. Nor was it a little tomb for some pharaoh. I mean, it may have been used for that down the line, but no, that's not what it was about. Who knows what the Americans stole from the Iraqi museum? Yeah, they did steal those 7 emerald tablets were supposedly in one of the Iraqi museums, and it was one of the first things they got, which I find interesting parallels with Adolf Hitler, because in the book written by Ravencroft, which was a prisoners of war, and he's been lambasted. He was a commander and a prisoner of war in the Second World War, and his critics were like, "Oh, he's just a fantasist." But he wrote a book called The Spear of Destiny, and in it, that was the first book I read about the Nazis, and I had consumed a lot of stuff about the Nazis because I couldn't get my head around the fact that a whole country just went insane. Apparently, was the first book that explained to me a little bit of what was really going on in the occult aspect of Nazism. And one of the first things that Hitler did, apparently, when he invaded Austria, was go to the Austrian museum where the Spear of Longinus was stored and took it back, because whoever has the Spear of Longinus would win the war, kind of thing. And there's, of course, quite a long history of the Spear of Longinus, which goes back to the Crusades and Bohemond and his being sieged by thousands of Muslims the day after he managed to take over Antioch. And these like half-starved, nearly dead knights, one of the priest that was with them had this dream that the Spear of Longinus was to be found under the altar in Antioch, and they dug under it, and there it was. So they said, well, we can't lose now, we've got the Spear of Longinus. For those of you that don't know, the Spear of Longinus was the head of the spear that the Roman centurion stabbed Jesus on the side in order to make sure he was dead. And immediately as it did it, some of the blood from Jesus's wounds sprinkled on him, and he immediately like dropped to his knees and like, oh fuck, this really was the Son of God. And he converted there and then. But the Spear of Longinus has said that whoever owns it or whoever has it will win any battle. And so because of that, these like few hundred like knights that were literally dying of thirst and had eaten their horses the day before decided that the smart thing to do when they were surrounded by, you know, tens of thousands of Muslims was to go out of the city and charge them. And they did. And they won. It's just like, what? So, yeah. You know, yeah, there is a long history of invading armies, like taking ancient artifacts and disappearing them. And I have absolutely no doubt the Americans did that to every level and extent. I've looked a little bit more in this so-called, you know, tomb of King Gilgamesh. And the guy who originally wrote the actual paper on it, I've read the paper on it. It's I can maybe do a stream on it one day. It's as usual. There's a bit of sensationalism there, you know, by the usual journalists and whatever, but there may be something to it. Fella says, gives a $5 super chat, says, what's the state of the 1911? Fella, thank you very much for the super chat. The status of the 1911 was that, as you guys may remember from when I started the 1911 fund, I said, this is only going to go for a 1911 unless a tractor comes up. If the tractor comes up, then I've got to put everything I can towards that. The tractor came up. I had a coincidental, very brief, unfortunately, but very well-paying job that allowed me to buy the tractor, but I had to use literally every penny I had to get it. So the 1911 fund is now back to zero. And it's harvest time soon, so I got to collect the olives to make the oil, and I don't really know where that money is going to come from because I can't do it by myself. There's just too much to do. So I need to pay a team of people to come and do it, and they the ability to export oil to the olive oil to the America is at an extremely frustrating point because all the paperwork for the United States is now done, ready, we could do it, and now the Italian guys that crush and make the oil, they need to provide their registered number for the American side to be able to import it. And they got the American number. I helped them register with the FDA, but they're like scared that, oh, something goes wrong with your oil, we're going to be liable in some way. And I'm like, dude, that's not how it works. But these guys are harassed and have been harassed all their life by the Italian bureaucracy. So it's very difficult to get them to understand that there is really no risk to them. And I'm happy to like bottle it in front of them, or they can do the bottling if they want and send it off to the States. But it's a very uphill thing. So I don't know if I'll be able to do it. The only other way to do it is for me to buy an actual olive juicer or whatever you want to call it, an industrial one, and I become the actual producer of my own oil because it's crushed in-house. Then I can get my own FDA number, and then I could export it to the United States without needing to go through these guys at all. But you know, those machines cost a few $1,000 even secondhand, and I just don't have that money. So one of you wants to go into business with me and fund me, help fund it, I'm happy to do it because there's definitely potential and there's definitely money in exporting oil to the United States, and it's a big market. But and for health reasons, not even for food reasons, olive oil has been found to be the thing that reduces inflammation and is the best thing for you above anything, including, you know, medical stuff that that guy John, I forgot his name. He's like a kind of an autistic, like a multimillionaire in America who made a lot of money and spends $2 million a year to like try and prolong his own lifespan. He like does blood transfusions with his son and to his dad, and he's like got all sorts of things hooked up to him day and night to like just check what actually works. And despite all of that, the best thing he found was the purest olive oil that you can get, which in this region where I am, we have, no joke, it's been certified as such. They're literally the best olive oil on the planet, bar none. And my olives are part of that. So it's like, fuck, we can just sell this stuff as a health thing, and we can sell it at a high enough price that I actually do make a small profit. So it's worth it. But that's the current unfortunate roadblock that I'm finding. So that's where we are. I enjoy the War Dogs, which Vox published. Yes, I did too. And John C. Wright's Sci-fi. I find John C. Wright, I don't enjoy his writing as much. But hit and miss between genius and autistic, but both lack the old charm. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Yes, that's a very good description there, Sylvester. I don't know, Sylvester. I'm assuming you've read Nazi Moon, Sylvester. I'm not sure. Wooly Ram says a sci-fi story I'm reading right now has an interesting concept. When humanity unlocks and uses zero-point energy, a much more advanced civilizations uses the zero-point energy to try and knock humanity out of the civilizational race. Well, if you read Nazi Moon, oh, Greeny Houdini just became a member. Thank you very much. Oh, I've got Greeny Houdini as a member. I'm stoked. Only 5 more of you, and then there's going to be membership-only streams. Woolly Ram says, super chat of $15. Thank you very much for the tractor repair fund. Yeah. Thank you, Woolly. That's very much appreciated, especially considering that, your country's at war right now. So your $15 means a lot. Thank you. Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. Caleb says, the story of St. Longinus is a favorite in my house. I love seeing my wife's face light up when we talk about it. She's not even Catholic, but I can see the saints working on her at times. St. Christopher is her favorite story. That's probably why I picked him at confirmation. Atta girl, Greeny. Yeah, look, all of the saints, that some people will gravitate towards this saint or that, but the stories of the saints are absolutely awesome. And they make really cool stories for your kids to tell about, they've got everything in there, drama, entertainment, romance. It's got everything. They're really cool, and they're real. They're true stories as well, so even better. Woody Ram says, welcome on board, Greeny. Snow, hi. Oh, Snow is another blast from the past. Wow, all the old female flames of the channel are coming back. Greeny says, I haven't been around because I moved to the Appalachian Mountains, brought a house and land. You see? God forbid anything happens to my wife, but if it does, I know where I'm going. No, that's awesome. Greeny bought a house in the Appalachians. And now if you tell me that you've been working my ass off, I know the feeling, darling. Yes, I know. Absolutely. And now if you tell me that you bought a 50 caliber Barrett, I'll be both jealous, happy, and, touched. So, Woolly Ram says, Wright has been called Woe of Eden. It's really good, but sadly unfinished. Oh, he has a poem called Woe of Eden. It's really good, but sadly unfinished. I like John C. Wright. He is unfortunately Novus Ordo, and I don't think he'll change because he's stubborn and a bit, stagnant. But Greeny says, thanks, Woolly. Thanks, Caleb and Kurgan. And Snow sends a little hard eyes and glass of wine. I'll toast you with my large, giant, very unhealthy espresso. I basically do like a 3 espresso cup and then I lengthen it with water. So I'm basically doing a corrupted giant espresso / traditional real Americano. I don't know. Some perversions of the two things. I'm glad to see you around, Snow, and I hope that you're healthy and happy. Well, 19 thumbs up out of 19 people present. I'm very impressed. Thank you very much. Yeah. Well, newcomers, it's a free for all. You can ask any question or bring up any topic. I'm actually enjoying the live stream, even though it's nearly 2 hours, and I probably need to get. It's not that bad. It's only 3 in the morning. Probably need to get a bit of sleep since I have to take the child to school tomorrow. But 20 thumbs up out of 19 people. See, 21 thumbs up out of 19 people. Thank you. That helps the algorithms, even though I'm probably shadow banned all the way to hell. If it weren't for caffeine, the Industrial Revolution never would have happened. LOL. Green Houdini says, what is the new virus? Marburg virus. So if you go on the description of this live stream that you're on right now, there should be a link to a blog post that I've just done just before coming onto the live stream, which has got a link to an older blog post that I put on there in February of 23, but was also referring stuff that was happening in 2021. So this Marburg virus is something that over the last 30 to 40 years has killed less than 400 people. But in about 2021, there was rumors and I believe true comments of people saying that there were now apparently vaccines of the stuff for this disease being stored by the millions, which is somewhat interesting. Why would anybody go to the trouble of building vaccines by the millions for a disease that has basically, statistically speaking, been irrelevant for the last 40 years? And nowadays, apparently, we've got an outbreak in Rwanda, supposedly from this cave where the most vicious disease like Ebola and this Marburg disease come from. I blame the bats, of course. As we all know, bats created COVID and now Ebola and the Marburg virus and probably the radioactive plague that will come next. We know it's bats. It's just bats. Yeah. So anyway, apparently some 26 people, I forget, but it's on the link, have either been infected or died in Rwanda, and this pair of student with his girlfriend who had just come directly from Rwanda and had been in touch with one of the people that is now been confirmed to have been infected by this Marburg virus, were suddenly ill on a train in Hamburg. And how anybody realized these guys had the Marburg virus, I don't know. Apparently the student called the fire department, which I don't know what they have to do with anything, but anyway, all the trains were stopped in Hamburg there for a few hours. The student and his girlfriend were taken away. The guys that went in there had hazmat suits on and their luggage has been impounded. So if it's real, if it's accurate, and if it is the real virus or the mutated virus that might have escaped out of a bat's lab or a lab's bat or somebody's butt, or who knows, the bats could have genetically engineered this thing, for purposes. And if that is real, well, it could be a really, really serious fucked up thing. So prepare accordingly. If you're in the Appalachians, you're probably all right as long as you don't have any neighbors and you don't let any neighbors near you. Also, chemtrails. Careful of that shit. Snow says, I've been here the whole time, but I've been keeping my silence. I've been writing some short stories and will be honored if anyone here would read one of them or something. So if we have beta reader volunteers, there you go. Unfortunately, I don't even have the time to correct my own writings, so I can't do it myself, but yeah. Holy Ram says, Marburg symptoms sound like the movie, I think it was called Outbreak, although it was anthrax in the movie. Yeah, the Marburg thing basically gets you to hemorrhage from the eyes, nose, ears, every orifice, you bleeding. It's a true horror disease, and it's got something like an almost 90% fatality, like 90% of people that get it die. And it is especially prevalent and especially deadly for children. Which sounds almost as if it was, perfectly engineered to cause the maximum panic in people. And if that happens, of course, they the lockdowns and things that happen under the last pandemic are gonna look like a happy, skippy, sunshiny frolic through the park. So all I wanted you guys to know is be aware that that's potentially a thing. And like somebody said, all the worst things start in Europe. And I added to that that apparently not just start in Europe, but in Germany specifically. Snow stories are mostly fictional. And Woolly Ram says, do you post your stories to a blog? That's my coffee done. And now the mandatory shot of sparkling water. Greenie says, what do you think about this war? Woolly Ram says, Moloch is hungry. He requires more young blood. Indeed. And not to be facetious, but, you know, the old saying, more blood for the blood god. That's the demon. And Greenie, if you're asking me, which war do you mean exactly? You know, do you mean the one in Ukraine, the genocide in Gaza, the one that's just started in Lebanon, or the one that we've all been subjected to for the last 4 years? Just curious, you know, be a bit more specific, Greenie. You know, we need to get into these things, and of course some of them we can't talk about because TOS, terms of service. Snow says that she puts her stories on Wattpad. I am Alicia Shepherd. So if you guys are interested in looking at her stories and giving her some feedback, go there. Greenie Houdini says, people are starting to buy up all the asswipe here. I tell them more Americans need to use bidets. You beautiful woman. Yes. So have you installed the bidet in your home? Have you gone the whole, you know, completely off-grid and self-sufficient route? And bidet is definitely right up there. You know, bidets are great for women to use. They're a bit more convoluted for very manly men like myself. Makes it a bit more of a job. Oh, Greenie Houdini says, is Iran and Israel, do you think? Oh, there you go. See, I've forgotten one. There's a new one that just started. I know. Oh, yeah, Taz. I haven't been on YouTube in a while. Yeah, me neither. Just sort of made a recent comeback. Yeah, the new war in Iran, in Israel from, you know, whatever. I think Iran actually officially declared war on Israel. I think in large part it's theater, because the invasion of Lebanon by Israel is, I think, relatively pointless. It's the usual sort of like, you guys come back, yappy kind of noise. And of course, all the mass media is like, hey, Israel has destroyed Hezbollah. Hezbollah no longer exists. So we are the best. And yes, the right to defend yourself, and the poor Jews that were being victimized. And yes, it's all good. The terrorists are gone, dead, finished. Every single one of them. What a load of fucking horseshit. I don't think they've put a dent in Hezbollah. They've just pissed a bunch of people off and probably created twice the number of people that are now supporting Hezbollah as they had, like, you know, a few weeks ago. That's what I think. By the same token, they're not going to take out Lebanon. They're not going to, you know, this is the 4th time Israel invades Lebanon since 1979. So in the last 40 years, they've invaded it like now 4 times. And every time it's just a little push up to there, and then, oh, they back away. Because what are they going to do? Israel doesn't logistically have the capacity to take over Lebanon, or indeed even survive a war, an actual full-out, flat-out war with Iran. They wouldn't survive it. The only reason that they can behave as they're behaving is because Israel is the tail that wags the dog that is the United States of America. So They can do whatever they want. They can invade whoever they want. They can bomb whoever they want. And, unlike Russia, who's just trying to defend itself from, they now admitted 15 biolabs that were there in Ukraine, and, all the other various shit that was going on since definitely 2014. They're evil regime. But if Israel does it, they're the poor victims that are just defending themselves. That's the narrative, and that's how it stays. Now, Iran, on the other hand, has to be seen to be doing something. But what a lot of people don't know is that all the missiles, that the 181 missiles or whatever that Iran fired on Israel, they literally told Israel they were going to do that and where they were firing them before they did it. So it's sort of theater. It's sort of like, hey, yeah, we're not letting you do that shit. And like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's the typical, it's sort of a little bit of a cultural thing, again, it's sort of like, remember how I said to you guys, like, it's like a school playground. Just imagine a school playground where you've got all these different nationalities, and think of each kid as representing, broadly speaking, his nation, right? So the American kid is kind of loud, brash, loud mouth. I can do that. We're the best. We're the best. We're the best. And then when push comes to shove, he's kind of chubby and unhealthy, and he can't actually run very fast, and he can't like fight well, and you can just. I've got a lot of iPads though. He's got a lot of technical shit that makes him kind of look cool, but push comes to shove, the skinny Russian kid with like fucking hand-me-down clothes and doesn't have shit, but he can probably take out 3 Americans with like one punch, because he's been a scrapper all his life and he doesn't fuck about. And then, when you come to Middle East cultures, it's sort of like, I don't know if you guys have ever had this experience. I'm older than most of you, so maybe not. But when I went into a high school that was American funded, but based on the British system, and had a very mixed group of people. There was like Swedish people, there was Europeans, there was Africans from various countries, and it was a private school, so all the people that were there, their parents were generally relatively well off. Not millionaires or anything, but they were like well off enough that they could pay for school fees and stuff. And so they when some American kids started to come, they started to like play the big thing. And I remember more than once it happened that like, I'm gonna beat you up, I'm gonna fuck you up. And the other kid was like, yeah, all right, let's go. And then the American guy be like, I'm gonna fight, hold me back, guys, hold me back. And everybody that was there like, hold you back from what? You said you're gonna fight the guy, fight the guy. It's sort of like, oh shit, and then I realized, oops. And the Middle Eastern cultures are all very much like that, whether they're Jews, Arabs, whatever. They're all very much like, I'm the best, I will kill your whole family, I will bomb your country, I will destroy you, you will just become radioactive dead bodies. And the other guy's like, no, you will, I'm the best, I'm the strongest, I beat you up, I've already done this, I've done this to your mom and your dad, and it just dies down into nothing. So that's kind of what's going on. And that's not to say that, some unlucky bastard that's under one of those missiles isn't dead. That shit happens. But, big picture scenario, yeah, it's kind of a nothing burger. Okay, let's see. Where are we? Sorry, I'm just catching up with it. Snow says, if people are buying up ass wipes again, would that make Stephen Molyneux relevant again? What? Was he relevant when people are buying ass wipes? Were they paying him more money? I don't know. Greenie says, I'm almost completely off grid, about 15K more. Lady, you're way ahead of me. I'm curious. I definitely want to do that interview with you. Please don't forget to ping me an email and let's make a date on it, because I want to ask you a bunch of questions which I hope are not too invasive. I'm not going to ask you exactly where you live or things about your family or whatever, but I'd like to know the size of your property. I'd like to know how long it's taken you, what you've got, what you don't have, what you're looking to get. I'm really, really interested. Caleb is just laughing. Woolly Ram says, depending on how cold you think the Persians are, I speculate that they're attacking Israel to keep on bleeding the empire of war material. Possibly, if they have a few Russian advisors, maybe. And since they're allied with China and Russia, it would make sense. They want the empire draining its war chest. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, strategically, I don't see that not being the case. I agree with you. My only reservation is, well, no, you're probably right, because I'm thinking, well, my only reservation was like, what is the risk that you're gonna draw in America on a proper like nasty kind of experience where even if it isn't full blown warfare, you get like some heavy like bombs thrown at you. But given the fact that Iran has told Israel and America where they're going to shoot their missiles, that probably, well, not probably, it absolutely means that there are back channels by which all of this is sort of like agreed, you know. Um, and I think America's probably going to tell Israel, hey, chill out, because if you like keep escalating, we might not be able to like actually be the dog that you wag usually to your heart's content, because there's a lot of shit going on, and America's also got these elections coming up in, what is it now, a month. Um, there's an interesting little clip I saw of General Flynn, I think on, I don't know, I think he was on one of these like guys that are, it might have been Alex Jones, I don't know. Some I hardly pay attention to these people because they're all like gatekeepers, like involved, and it doesn't really matter. Fucking Trump, Kamala, yeah, it might make a slight difference or whatever, but ultimately they're all part of the same fucking people, I think. Anyway, but this General Flynn guy, he was saying like, oh, you're gonna see shit that we haven't even, you thought the last 4 to 8 years were like weird. In this last month, we're gonna see like desperation on a level we haven't seen before, and there's gonna be crazy shit happening all over the place. He might well be right. So, I don't know. Green Houdini says, yes, we will connect and set a date. I'll show you my setup and show your audience. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. That's really, I'm very, very pleased about that. Thank you. That's, oh man, I need to tie up my pants. Sorry. They keep sliding down when I push the chair forward. It makes it uncomfortable on my butt. There you go. Too much information for that little segment, but there you go. Woolly Ram says, America is practically speaking paralyzed, at least until the elections are resolved one way or the other. Yeah. And I put it on the blog. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's a little video clip of the master troll, Saint Putin. And I don't get me wrong. I don't think Putin is an angel or anything, but they asked him like, so who do you hope wins the American elections? And he like tongue in cheek and with his little smile, he goes, well, our favorite candidate, unfortunately, has pulled out of the race, Joe Biden. But given that he's pulled out of the race, of course, we totally support Kamala. We hope Kamala wins this one. And it's just like fucking blows the minds of, of the Democrats and the liberals and the woke side, right? Because now, on one side, they got to say, oh shit, if Russia's supporting us and we win, that gives the other side the narrative that we've been using, that Russia, you only won because of Russian interference. On the other hand, we can't say he's taking the piss, because then it means, well, he hopes Kamala wins because she's going to be the most fucking horrific thing that's ever happened to the American political system since its inception. It's going to be worse than the fucking Civil War, which I truly believe it would be. But that's my opinion, I'm not American. It doesn't affect me really. So Woolly Ram says, no, I can't find you on Wattpad. Do I need an account to find you on it? Yes, no, maybe put the link for your for your blog in the chat if you can. I don't know if you can or not. I hope you can. So yeah, he's just a brilliant little, his trolling of America, I think, is fucking hilarious. Oh, Caleb says first member streams should be on farming or spiritual / paranormal. Okay, you gave the first suggestion. You get to pick, man. You're a member, and you came up with a suggestion first. You decide the topic of the first members only stream that I'll do as soon as another 5 people sign up. All I need is 5 more of you, and we're gonna have little members only streams that you guys have a huge say in, and where we can talk, discuss, figure out problems. And because they will be, I think, basically private, limited to the members, I think we can probably discuss a few more things that might not be as easy to discuss in a more public forum. I think, I hope, I don't know. I've got some that on my own. I need like a dedicated secretary to handle my PR and a dedicated IT freak. I mean, I've got a very good friend he helps me a lot, but he also has a full-on day job. I need somebody that I can rely on, and you'll have to go through a vetting process that'll probably include body cavity searches, because there's a lot of bad actors. But I really sort of need somebody that can help me tweak a few stupid little things that I just don't have the time to do, like make the stream also appear on Rumble and stuff, other things automatically. And I know I could figure it out, but it's just time that I a little bit lazy, a little bit don't want to learn how to set the clock on the VHR thing kind of age, and get off my lawn kind of mentality. But yeah, it would be great to have a couple of people that could help me out with that shit. Greeny says, I did get the Elon Musk setup to have internet off grid. It's awesome for it to be as mobile as the dish is. It looks like a whiteboard. Whoa. Okay. And you managed to do that without getting a Neuralink implant? Woolly Ram says, how much does a year of Starlink cost? Yeah, we want to know that. That's interesting. Snow says, user / Alicia Shepard. I ordered it when they were having a special. I pay 120 a month. Elon says he's going to lower it. Fucking better. I'm not paying even a quarter of that for my internet. Admittedly, it's rural internet. If you get a bit too much wind or rain or HARP, then kind of goes down a bit. But Snow is laughing. Yeah, Elon Musk. Good old Elon, hey? I do wonder. I'm certain that Elon is as a ticket taker, but I wonder, miracles do happen, and the same thing about Putin. There's images of Putin in full-on Freemason garb or whatever. But that's not to say that some of these guys don't have a change of heart somewhere along the line. A very good book that is presented as fiction because they didn't want to name the names and whatever, but there's stuff in there that is, I believe, is absolutely real. It's called, the Italian title is L'eletta del dragone, which means the elect of the dragon. And the original was in French, I believe. It's certainly been translated into Italian. I don't know, I haven't come across an English translation of it, so unless you read Italian or French, you're probably shit out of luck. But it explains this woman's journey of how she got into Freemasonry, and she was very deeply into it, right to the point of having an affair with Garfield, the American president that was assassinated, and the assassination of it, she reckons was involved with all these Freemason things. But right at the end of it, you find out she actually repents, and it's very. I think stuff like that absolutely happens, because remember that real life is invariably stranger than fiction. So wait, Greenie, 120 a month, that's when you have a special? Fucking hell. Greenie says she's never getting a Neuralink or a genetic serum. Ooh, 120 a month is steep. If what Elon says about his son is true, he might be having a change of heart, or it might be a show for the plebs. Yeah, that's what I think as well. He's been on record discussing that, what happened to his son and so on. Elon capitulated with the woke ideology, which is really just SJW 4.7 or something, and his child paid a very heavy price for it. It definitely made Elon much more serious. Yeah. Well, if something is going to turn it around for you, it might be that. And even if you do turn around, you're still in that swamp. You bought the ticket, you're part of the swamp, and I don't think it's easy to get out of it. Look at what's happening to good old Sean Combs or P. Diddy. There's like now already people are putting up like the Diddler, with like with his face in the Riddler costume from Batman. There's a lot of shit apparently coming out. Who knows? Because they make it all this thing and then it just sort of dies down. But one of their lawyers has come out saying there's been at least 120 people that are involved, and there are huge names like involved. Yeah, and yeah, Greenie says they all suck the same devil dick. Left, right, Elon, Donald, Clinton's, Biden. Yep, absolutely. There's just the thing that you need to understand, and that's why that book, The Letter del Dragone, explain, shows this very clearly. When you're dealing with Satanists, they're not one homogeneous mass. They're homogeneous in their evil and their deceptions and the things they do, but they fight with each other. Just they're vying for power all the time. There's backstabbing and betrayals going on every fucking second of the day between them, and there's different factions trying to get power over this and power over that, and there's different blocks like working at odd purposes against each other, not because any of them are good, but because they've got their own agendas, and that takes precedence over pretty much everything else. So it's not as clear cut as that. Now their big victory on the Catholic Church is that they reduced, but is it a bad thing or is it a good thing? Because essentially what they did is they exposed all the nominal, weak ass, lukewarm, not real Catholics in the lay people, and of course all the fake, lazy, cowardly, scared, useless clergy in the Catholic Church. They just fucking swept a whole lot away in one go and came up with this Novus Ordo fake imposter church, which, yeah, the big problem that the Catholics have is to spread the word enough that we become a force to be reckoned with again, numbers wise, but purity wise, hey, they did us a favor. They got rid of all the dead wood and all the betrayers, the spies, the infiltrators. One fell swoop, all gone. Yeah, it's true they're fooling the masses for the moment, but that's not going to last because eventually truth will out. And I don't know if you know, but apparently Mel Gibson is putting the finishing touches on part 2 of The Passion, which is the resurrection of Christ. And I have not watched The Passion of the Christ, and I will not watch The Passion of the Christ, most likely because I had a very interesting conversation with this with various people, people that have been in special forces, people that are not strangers to very real violence. And we all have kind of the same attitude. None of us have watched The Passion of the Christ because the idea of basically watching a 2-hour snuff movie with a guy that is the most innocent person that ever walked the earth is just fucking would do my fucking head in. I don't think I can handle it. My wife watched it And she wasn't even anywhere Christian at the time, but her reasoning was, oh, well, shit, if you could go through all that for us, what, I can't go through a couple of hours of watching some stuff on video? But you know what, you know how it is. Women are always bloody more thirsty and more bloodthirsty, more vicious, and just generally brutal than men are. It's a known factor, right? Now all the feminists out there screeching, but and you know it's a valid point that she's got, but I'm still not gonna do it. It's like I don't need that in my head. I don't need to see that. I'm familiar with, unfortunately, more evil shit than I care to know, and I have trouble sleeping as it is, as you can tell, because it's 4 in the morning here. I don't need anything else, reducing the few hours of sleep I do get. So, but I would watch The Resurrection, absolutely would. And is apparently doing another film about the Siege of Malta. So I'm starting to wonder if Mel, I sent him a book to his, you know, Mel's like funded his own sort of sedevacantist chapel. I sent a book to that place addressed to him, and hopefully, maybe he got it because. And hey, Mel, if you're listening, dude, I would work on your films for free. I can't afford to, so I'm at least room and board, right, for me and probably my kids. But I, and you know what? It'd be great if I could be a knight in the Malta one, or, but I'll put blackface on and be a Muslim. I don't care if you can just have a part in one of your films. That'd be awesome. Just for the thrill of it. I wouldn't even, you know, wouldn't be for the money or the fame. You know, don't even have to put my name in the credits. I'd be cool to do it just because. Okay, it's fine. Uh, Snow says, well, now didn't the I'm going to have to chastise. I might have to ban you, Snow, if you refer to Bergoglio as the Pope again. You should know better than that. I'm going to correct what you wrote here. Well, now, didn't the fake, never was Catholic fake Pope Bergoglio, that's how you should address him, recently attempt to reignite the coexist thing they attempted in 2014? Uh, don't know. I'm afraid I don't keep up with what Satanists do in their day-to-day attempts at destroying Catholicism. I have no idea what that fucker does, and I don't care. He's not relevant to the Catholic religion. I mean, yes, I know he's, you know, causing a lot of harm to people that are essentially lazy and, you know, lazy. Because if you're a lay Catholic and you don't know what Vatican II is, and you don't know what the Novus Ordo fake church is, and you don't know that there hasn't been a valid Pope since 1958, how can you call yourself a Catholic? If you've never read the Vatican II documents and compared them to what Catholicism used to be, if you don't know what the Code of Canon Law of 1917 is, how can you even say you are Catholic? You know, you're slothful. Yes, you've been fooled. Yes, you've been lied to, but you know, how much of your own supposed religion that you profess to belong to do you even know? So, you know, you can't blame a Satanist for being a Satanist. You got to blame the lazy layperson for being a lazy layperson and thinking that a Satanist is a Catholic. It's just, what the hell? Wake up. I mean, I figured it out pretty quickly, and I didn't know a damn thing about Catholicism. Why don't you guys know it, you know? Greeny Houdini says, frazzle drip. Indeed. Snow says, I went to see The Passion on its opening day before anyone knew just how horribly horrifying it was. The entire theater was dead quiet the whole time. I think we were in shock. Yeah. Yeah. I think Greeny is trying to, you know, hurt my feelings and act like a goddamn heretic, saying, what if Jesus was Anunnaki? And she's smiling. I may have to ban you too, you filthy heretic, for your evil suggestion. Sir Hamster! Good God, everybody's coming out of the work these days. Hi, Kurgan. Reminds me of the converted kings who got mad hearing about the crucifixion and wished they were there to fight to save Jesus. Oh, I didn't even know about those guys. Are they from the Old Testament? I don't know who are they. You mean Louis Day, whatever, 9th? Yeah, I didn't even know about that, but yeah, thanks, Ramsa. Thanks for reminding me of that. Uh, yeah, that's awesome. I'd like to know a bit more about that. If you've got any info, please drop me a line or put a link in or whatever. Snow says, "Oops, fake Pope." That's right. I can't take Mel Gibson seriously. No, neither can I, because he's a softcore sedevacantist, and he praised Vigano. Vigano is obviously a gatekeeping, lying, cowardly scumbag because he's been silent for 60 years and he's got a PhD in the Code of Canon Law of 1917. So he's got no excuse. He's just one of these guys who's like, oh, well, there's a couple of guys going off the reservation, a bit too many of them. Well, quickly, let's round them up. And that's what it is. Willie Ram says, if I found out about Catholicism and the Sede position, anyone with curiosity can. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I could become Catholic, literally illiterate peasants can do it. It's Sir Hamster says, let me look it up. Thank you, sir. Very, very kind of you. And just so you guys know, Sir Hamster is, of course, a Protestant heretic, and him and I have butted heads, but very respectfully and very gentlemanly on Social Galactic, and I have the highest respect for him, despite the fact that, of course, he's erroneous and unfortunately, unless invincible ignorance is a defense, which, I doubt in his case, but he'll probably end up in hell. But, I still have to give him respect, give Jews where Jews are due. So he salutes. I salute you too, sir. Very kind of you. Greenie says, I had an hope, I'm thinking hope we can discuss when we link up. I can tell you my godly experience. Okay, sure, yeah. We can do that. Snow says, us ladies getting in trouble again. Well, you know the old saying, like, women ruin everything. Surely you're aware of that 12th commandment. I'm going to get my ass so banned from this platform. Greenie says, and it's so crazy because I was cursing and damning God when I had this OBE, OBE, supernatural experience. So, road to Damascus moment. And he showed me the scripture. Oh my God. Yep, that's kind of how it happens. Yeah, each story of personal road to Damascus event is unique, but they're all similar in some way. Oh, OBE, out of body experience. Okay, yeah, cheers. Yeah, yes, quite a lot of people have come back from that sort of thing and converted. And look, I want to be clear. For example, John C. Wright had a vision of Mary that convinced him Catholicism was it. I didn't have a vision of Mary. I basically experienced whatever minute part of God I think a human being can experience directly without just instantly bursting into flames because because we're essentially a filthy little flammable maggot that's being exposed to a nova. So that's what I mean. I think I was exposed to as much as of the reality of God the Father, if you like, as a human being can be without just spontaneously combusting. And that was it. I didn't get a vision of Jesus or Mary or cherubims or anything, but it was absolutely undeniable, absolutely real, and to this day, there's people that have some real revelation, then a few years later, they're like, oh, well, but maybe it was this, maybe it was that. There's been zero doubt in my persona and belief system or everything about that experience. It was absolutely undeniable at every fucking level, right down to my DNA. And the thing is, my initial reaction was basically, I've written about this before, but basically my initial reaction was like, all I know is that God is real and exists, and God is love. Those were the two things I was absolutely certain of. So let's say instantly from that point, I became what is essentially, the technical definition of that person is a deist, because all I knew was that God existed and that God was love. And, the only religion that really spells it out absolutely that God is love is Christianity. So then it's like, okay, well, which Christianity? And, within about 5 minutes of thinking about it, obviously anything related to Protestantism is out because it doesn't make any logical sense. It's absolute, it's absurd, it's nonsensical on every level, in every way, shape, and form. So that was out. That left the Copts, the Eastern Orthodox, and the Catholics. And at the time, I was, quite deeply involved with Russian Orthodoxy because of the systema that I was doing, which was, Russian martial art, where most of the exponents and people teaching it and all the top guys were all Russian Orthodox. And I liked Russian Orthodox because they were pretty, down to earth. It was pretty simple and basic. There was none of this faffy stuff. And they didn't seem to be at least plagued by a bunch of pedophiles pretending to be priests, which the Catholics absolutely were. But then when I started looking into it, well, the Copts didn't really convert anybody. They're almost extinct, which it's not a numbers game. I don't believe the truth ever is. I don't think the truth generally is ever a numbers game. But the fact they had never really converted anybody, hadn't really spread around, and they were basically being wiped out, indicated to me that it was probably unlikely that they were the original church instituted on earth by God. The next thing was, well, I like the Orthodox more, maybe I should become one of those guys, so let me look into it a bit. And it's like, I started comparing Orthodoxy and Catholicism, even though, I really disliked the whole Catholic, like, pedophile stuff that was going on. And that had been going on since I was a kid. I had pretty much rejected Catholicism in its entirety at a very young age. So I was just sort of comparing notes to be thorough about it, because I generally am. And the thing is that whenever a theological position of any depth came up, more often than not, the Eastern Orthodox approach to it was like, well, that's a mystery. Well, that nobody can know. Well, that's God's purview. Well, in the Catholic one, there was reasoned arguments that referred to scripture, tradition, etc., that made logical arguments that made sense. And I was like, well, fuck. Instinctively, purely see what I like best just from the feel of it, I like the Orthodox guys more. But when I look into it into some depth, Catholicism is definitely far more deep. So I couldn't reconcile what the fuck, how can the Catholics be right if they've got all these pedophiles pretending to be popes and priests and whatever? So I started reading the Code of Canon Law by myself, and it took me a while to figure out there even was such a thing as the Code of Canon Law. And then I bought it and I started reading it, and then I came up on Code 188, Part 4. And at that point, I was like, well, wait a minute, because, I spent many years reading contracts for fun. Anglo-Saxon, common law contracts. Roman law is much more beautiful, much more precise, much more logical, much easier to grasp than any of the more convoluted English legal systems, or the absurd and ridiculous and completely nonsensical American legal system. And I'd gone through both of those, including generic European legal systems for contracts and stuff. So reading the Code of Canon Law and its Roman law-based legality was an absolute pleasure. It was actually very easy to grasp, understand, and follow. And as soon as I came across Canon 188 Part 4, I was like, well, wait a fucking minute. This now clears everything up. And I can't be the only guy that's figured this out. It was only after I'd come across that I realized what sedevacantism, that sedevacantists even existed, that there was valid bishops and priests called sedevacantists, and that's how I came across it. So at that point, I realized, oh, that's why it never made sense, because the guys pretending to be Catholics are actually not. They're Satanists, and that's why, the Orthodox Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, was the closest thing to the church that still existed, but wasn't the actual real church. The Catholic Church always was the original, real, true church. It's just that it's been infiltrated and almost destroyed, and there's only a tiny remnant of it that's left, which, by the way, ties in with a whole bunch of prophecies that Catholic saints have done over a span of centuries. Um, totally unrelated to each other, but there's like dozens of prophecies about the situation we're living through happening. So that also fit in, and it fits in with Revelation if you're one of those people that think we might be entering the end times or whatever. So yeah, that's how it had to be Catholicism, without a doubt. Um, so Greeny says, and it's so crazy because I was cursing and oh no, sorry, I've already read that. And he showed me the scripture. Oh my God, out of body experience. I was demanding God to answer me. I know I sound crazy. No, you don't sound crazy. Plus, you're a woman, so yes, you are. But we accept that. Snow says I can relate to that. The divine I connected with was the all direction, atoms, light, frequency, and love. It wasn't a physical sex. Um, well, my experience of God was definitely masculine, but it was definitely it definitely had a paternal love expressed as far as I could could fathom. But I think it's also fair to say that these experiences come to us in the proportion that we are ready to see the truth. Um, John C. Wright was obviously ready to see Mary as the Mother of God that gave him some information or whatever it was. I think I was definitely ready to see the head dude to whatever extent a human being is capable of doing that. Because that is generally my nature. I tend to be a big picture guy. If I'm, had a vision of Mary, I would start questioning probably, oh, but what about this? And she's like number like, well, where does she fall in the hierarchy, and why did I get her? But if the top man goes like, hey, buddy, enough of your shit, then it's like, oh, it's daddy, all right, better shut the fuck up and listen. So I think it may be related to you being such a limited vessel that you can only process a certain amount of truth, and it's given to you in the way that you can best interpret it for where you are at that point in time. Certainly, my spiritual evolution has continued from going to, oh, God is love, and God exists. Oh, and the other thing was God absolutely is aware of every single one of us personally, right down to the atoms in your DNA, which was for me that was the most mind blowing part, because I could do the maths, and I observed the universe, and I was intelligent enough to figure out that, like, the atheist, oh, it's all just coincidence, was absolute nonsense, couldn't make sense. But um, the idea that there was an intelligence behind creation was relatively obvious. But the idea that that same intelligence literally cared significantly in any way about any one of the farts from a flea's butt that we represent in the greater scheme of the universe was just like, oh, come on, that's just typical human solipsism and delusion that the God that the power, the whatever you want to call it, that created the entire universe, literally gives a shit about you, you know, little me on planet Earth, that sand grain spilt out on the back ass end of the Milky Way, which is itself a back end random fucking galaxy amongst an almost infinite number of them floating about there, was just to me nonsensical. But when I was faced with the reality of it, that blew my fucking mind. But then and then, I didn't suddenly think, oh yeah, and that means Jesus definitely resurrected. I don't know when that happened. That just sort of happened on its own without me even really being aware of it. I just remember one day I was having dinner with my eventual to be wife, that we were together at the time, but we weren't married yet. And I was just having dinner, just the two of us at home, and I realized, shit, I've just realized that if it was just for me, if it didn't involve my daughter at the time, I only had the one daughter, if it didn't involve anyone I really loved, if I was faced with the option of being killed or denounces Jesus Christ, I'll take the bullet. And I was like, I don't fucking know when that happened. I have no idea when that happened. That's just crazy to me, because my entire life, for more than 40 years of my life, I was like, well, the resurrection just sounded absurd to me. And the idea that somebody would die on the principle that they would not deny that Jesus Christ was the Son of God and came back from the dead and blah, 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 was just like, well, yeah, I'm sure people would do that, but they're just fucking crazy fanatics that are, brainwashed. And now I was one of them. Nobody had fucking brainwashed me, no one had told me I had to do that or be like that. It just happened. And I still genuinely don't know when or how, though I can't think of a single thing that happened that made me switch. But at one point, it's just like, I thought about it, it's like, oh, shit, that's changed. That's, that's weird. But it is. So there's definitely been an evolution, and it continues through my life. But that doesn't mean that it all happened at once, So whatever your experience was, Greenie, doesn't mean that it's finished, and doesn't mean that it isn't going to evolve into something else. I have hope for you, lady. You're still going to become a sedevacantist at one point. I believe it. Snow says, when I first experienced God, it was absolutely undeniable that God was very real and very present and very much aware of everything, down to the tiniest minutiae. Yeah, absolutely. And isn't that mind-blowing? I mean, it's like, I used to, that used to be one of my points of argument whenever some, usually Protestant, because, I lived in South Africa and Anglo countries mostly, when some supposed Christian came up to me and said, God, I'm like, listen, first of all, how are you reading that whole Genesis thing? Because, seems like the snake was telling the truth about like getting kicked out and being jailed. What the fuck's going on there? And none of them could give me a decent, logical response. And the other one was like, you're telling me, I'd asked them, like, do you understand the size of the knowable, visible universe that we live in? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, there's like some planets. And like, no, do you understand what the size of a galaxy is, the galaxy we're in? And they'd be like, well, yeah, there's a lot of stars. I'm like, no, you dumbass. Do you know what a fucking light year is? No, it's that like how, no, I don't really know. Is that how long the light from the stars lasts? And I'm like, no, it's a fucking unit of distance. And the galaxy is, 100,000 light years across and about 30,000 light years wide. And a light year is how far light travels in a fucking year. And light travels at roughly around 300,000 kilometers a fucking second. That's just one galaxy. Do you have any idea how many fucking galaxies there are in the visible universe? We're talking trillions and trillions and trillions of them. And you're telling me God gives a fuck about me or you or that rat that just ran across the floor? Come on, man. That was one of my points. And they didn't have a response to that. They didn't have anything that could reconcile that. Other than, I believe and Jesus is in my heart. And it's like, it didn't mean anything to me. The other thing that happened that was absolutely mind-blowing was that I'd read parts of the Bible before, from when I was a kid. I'd originally asked my grandmother to send me a copy because we didn't have one in the house. My parents were absolutely not acting as Christians or anything. They were both baptized, but they never, I think when I asked my mother once, I think she said, oh, I don't know if Jesus was real. I think he was just like some myth or something, that's how badly they didn't know anything. My grandmother sent me a Bible in Italian, and I tried to read it, but it was that old style kind of language, so it was a bit too, and I kind of left it. But then later in life, when I wrote The Face on Mars, I read parts of it, Genesis and so on, and parts of the New Testament, but I never read the whole thing fully. And then when I was doing this investigation, I started reading the Bible again, and it was like fucking mind-blowing, because passages that I definitely read before, that I even referenced in The Face on Mars, rereading those passages, it was like a magic lock had clicked, and I could now see like multiple levels of interpretation that I could actually physically go and check and verify, wait a minute, is it just me imagining this shit? Or because if the levels of interpretation that I'm seeing here is correct, then this refers to another verse in another story in the Bible, in the New Testament from the Old Testament, and let me go and check it, and then let me go and check all the commentary that's been written about it, and like, oh fuck yeah, that is what it meant. Whoa. It was blowing my mind that now all of a sudden it was like the Bible had suddenly become, and I also realized how much of a rebellious document the Bible is. I always assumed the Bible was like this sort of dusty old tome about you need to do this and otherwise you're a bad boy and just like boring old shit. And it wasn't. It's absolutely fucking mind-blowingly. Um, I don't want to say rebellious because it's not rebellious to God, but it's rebellious against all the shit, all the lies that we have on this planet. It absolutely puts them to the lie, sets the fire to them, and it's like, whoa, this is really awesome. So yeah, it's brilliant. Snow says reconciliation is ugly and messy and usually involves a lot of tears and snot. It certainly does. Greenie says unfathomable, and Snow says right. It's like you can't understand the wisdom of the Holy Bible until God translates it for you while you read it after you accept Him as Lord. I experienced the same thing. Yeah, it's a very common event actually in people that have these sudden awakenings all out of the blue. It's quite something. And again, while an external observer can say that that's a subjective thing, people that have lived through it know that it's what I call subjective objectivity. In other words, it's subjective to an external observer, but from our perspective, it's absolutely objective because we've got our entire life and all our life experiences and other people and people that are in our lives and events that happen in our lives that all confirm in objective reality that what we're experiencing is not just our little mental delusion or the result of fucking drugs, lack of sleep, or whatever. And by the way, I've never consumed drugs or any of that. So, if you believe in the Bible, you have to believe in Enki. Wait, Greenie. We can have multiple streams and we can get into the theological one too. Enki is part of both the Babylonian mythology that includes Gilgamesh and also the Old Testament. Now, I have a very different approach to the Old Testament than I do the New Testament. The Old Testament is essentially, as far as I'm concerned, 400 years or so of prophecies that are pretty much prophesizing the arrival of the Messiah. And they include, because you've got to understand that the Hebrew language it was originally written in is a specific language which has at least 3 levels of interpretation in just their normal writing, because it can be interpreted literally, but depending on how the grammar and words are used, it can be interpreted metaphorically, or it can be interpreted as a almost like an analogy or an anecdote that has metaphorical interpretations rather than, strictly speaking, necessarily historical interpretations. So understanding which part of the Old Testament sort of is representing which aspect of these 3 methods that are all enmeshed in that one language is something that you really need to essentially, I think, have to be familiar with Hebrew, and not just Hebrew, but the Hebrew of those days, because of course language continues to evolve over time. So not an easy thing to do at all. I think Wooly Ram is much more able in that regard than I ever would be, and I'm never going to spend the time it would take to become fluent in ancient Hebrew. So I have to go by somewhat commentaries, people that I trust that probably have a better understanding of it. So I take the validity for me of the Old Testament is pretty much limited to maybe certain bits of it that make sense to me or that I think I understand. But overall, if I had to reduce it down to like one concept, is like, yeah, the Old Testament is just mostly about prophesizing the arrival of the Messiah, and that's its most useful function. And the rest is a mix of metaphors, warnings, analogies that help you to understand better Christianity on a certain level. But I kind of like don't worry too much about the Old Testament. The New Testament is what's important, and of course there are referential things in the New Testament that refer to the Old Testament, and so on, and there are plenty of things throughout both that refer to tradition and certain concepts, like why do Catholic priests, why are they celibate, there's a reason for that, and it goes back to the Old Testament, and it goes back to the old priesthood and so on. But if you don't know that stuff, you need to investigate and figure it out. But on one hand, yes, it's kind of important because it gives you more of a deeper understanding of the concepts, but it's not absolutely necessary for you to be a good Catholic. Plenty of illiterate peasants throughout the ages have been very good Catholics, and they didn't even know how to read or write. So, Woolly Ram says, I've taken some recreational chemicals. There is nothing remotely similar between one of those and what I experienced during Lectio Divina. Yeah, it's I've never partaken in chemical substances of that nature. Because, by the way, any one of those experiences, you can have a better one without. It's a lot harder to have. I've had glimpses of it when I was training really hard and doing a lot of training, like doing katas for hours and end to the point where you can't move your limbs anymore. And then you enter kind of this like zone where you're just not tired anymore and everything is bright and feels good. And it's what a lot of sportsmen call the wall. I had a similar experience in swimming. When I was swimming competitively, the first 45 to an hour minutes of 45 to 60 minutes of the swimming session would be hell. By the time you get to like 45, 50 minutes, an hour, you're ready to just like lock up, get a cramp and drown and put yourself out of your misery. 5 minutes later, you're just in the zone, you're just flowing, everything is just like you're flying, so I had tiny experiences of that nature, but without any chemical alteration or input. But this thing that I experienced was of a completely different. There's no relationship. It wasn't even, it had nothing to do with an overload of serotonin or whatever. Nothing of that sort. It was just a supernatural experience. I can't explain it any other way, really. Woolly Ram says, I think it helps to look at an Old Testament almost like a commentary to the New Testament. Yeah, I would say that's a fair. It's a commentary that only makes sense with the primary text, the New Testament. Yeah, I would agree with that. And the thing is, I'm a pretty humble guy in those terms. Or maybe I'm just a little bit pedantic and I'd like to know more of the details, and I know that I don't have the skills to know more of the details and interpret it correctly. So it's kind of like, just going to listen to what the priest says and do what the priest says, like a good Catholic. Just shut the fuck up and do what a real valid priest tells you, and you'll be fine. It's same thing like with the Trinity. I don't, get into the details of the Trinity and this and that. Who cares? Father, Son, Holy Ghost, good enough for me. It's worked for Catholics for thousands of years. What, I'm gonna figure it out and come up with some new theory of the Trinity? Yeah, I don't need to. That's fine. So that's kind of my attitude towards it. Catholicism is pretty much the credo. Keep the Ten Commandments. Don't do shitty stuff and treat other people well and defend yourself if you have to, and defend innocence if you have to. That's it, basically. And Woolly Ram says, heck, if you want some experience, fast for a few days, work out, it's a different state of mind. Absolutely. I'm actually doing a slightly modified version of that currently. Basically, for the last 3 days, only eaten a small amount of food, like once a day. Sometimes I've gone off that, but I'm I'm certainly considering doing a water fast for like a week or a few days or so. It's definitely beneficial. I've done it before, and it's very good. I've also done 24 or maybe even 48-hour complete fast, including dry fast, no water, nothing. You have to be careful with that shit. You got to take maybe enough salts and stuff. So don't do what I do. You got to figure this shit out yourself, and you got to do it on your own. Whatever's good for you, but fasting absolutely puts you in a different state of mind. Yeah. All right, guys, we've been going for nearly 3 hours, and I really appreciate all the new entrants here again. I really enjoy having green and snow again here, greeny rather. Greeny, don't forget to ping me an email. I absolutely want to do that interview stream with you, and maybe we can do a couple. Like we can do one with about the off-grid stuff, and maybe we can do one about the supernatural road to Damascus things that we've experienced. Maybe people are interested in that. I don't know. I might put a poll on the blog for see what people would prefer to hear more. But I think I'm going to call it a night, unless I'll give you guys another minute, as I usually. No, 2 minutes. Tell you what, it's 2:58 hours that we've been going, so I'll wait until 3 hours on the dot. So if you've got any more questions that are worthwhile talking about, or comments or whatever, just fire them in. You've got a couple of minutes to ping it into the chat. Otherwise, I'll say good night after 3 hours of streaming. That'd be awesome to talk to you live. Cool. I look forward to it. Do not forget, please ping me an email. It's filotto@gmail.com. Ping me one there. And I'm assuming that, yeah, you said the Telegram thing is gone. So if you get on Telegram again, or ping me an email, and then I'll send you the contact details, and we can do it soon as. I'm looking forward to it. I really am quite excited about it. And maybe we can even plan it a little bit, so it's a little bit more structured rather than my rambling, which that's why we have 3-hour streams, guys, because I start off with one quick topic and then I talk to you guys. And I take full responsibility, but I enjoy being driven off the beaten path by all of you. But yeah. Willie Ram says, good night, good morning, Kurgan, and chat. Good speed, you all. Type your email out, please. Oh, come on, Greenie. Lazy girl. All right, I'll do it. You do know that this means that my spam will increase tenfold. Things we do for pretty girls, eh? Let me put it there. There you go, Greenie. Snow says, night, night, good sir. Good night to you too, Snow. And Altold PA says, the Old Testament conceals what the New Testament reveals. Augustine. Yeah. I haven't read enough of Augustine. Greenie says, LOL, thank you, you're welcome. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I need to read a bit more of Augustine. Augustine is actually quite close to my heart, because one of the most absurd supernatural experiences I had was absolutely, definitely linked with St. Augustine. And I've read absolutely nothing from him or about him, except that one statement that appeared to me in the most ridiculously absurd and unbelievable way, which was, love kills us so that we can be born again and become that which we were not. Apparently that's a quote he said. So Greenie Houdini says, I look like my parents' child, LOL. Attraction is variable. I don't know, I guess we'll see you when you come online, but I've got very high expectations. So, don't go get all Botox and fake lip filler and stuff for the stream, right? That would be bad. Don't do that, okay? So, yeah. But okay, that's 3 minutes in now, 3 hours in rather. So thank you all very much, and thank you all the people I hadn't seen in a while, including Sir Hamster. And I know Sir Hamster's probably gone off searching for that link, but he'll send it to me on Social Galactic or an email or something. Thank you all. I really appreciate the time you guys spend and the interesting chat that it becomes because of you. So thank you, and God bless every one of you. Good night, and I shall see you soon. Hopefully with Greenie in the chat soon. Oh, good. Never. That's right. I remember. You're against the injections in general. Good girl. All right. Good night, all. Thank you very much.